All right, y'all. All praises. First and foremost, give all praises, glory, and honor to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and his son Hamashiach, some called Yahweh Yeshua, Yehoshua, Yasha Yah. Uh, we mostly know as Jesus Christ. All right, brother Feeney is here, man. We got a brother James, been reaching out to me. He said he want to go over those PDF files. He has some things he want to discuss on it, and so we're gonna open the platform up for him to discuss these things and go over them and we'll see how it pans out. Again, I'm not, I don't know what side the brother's coming from or what extent he's coming from, if he agree or disagree. But we're here to find that out. We're here to find that out. All right, peace and blessings, IOCK. Definitely here to find that out. And I really just want the brother to just rock it out. If he wants my input on it, wants some feedback from me, I'll do it, but if he don't want a back and forth, he can just give out his points. And that's kind of how I developed it. Is I want you to read this and then navigate this yourself, and then be like, oh well, you may see a problem, you may not, but it'll be how we navigate it. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Shalom Zahab. Shalom sis. Shalom James cooked it. Shalom brother. But yeah, we just waiting on the brother to get in. I don't know if he's familiar with how familiar he is with StreamYard, especially this free version I'm using. But praying this thing is edifying and that we can have a decent dialogue here. Shout out to brother Ernest. He says really enjoying this great work. You giving us. All praise to the Most High, man. All praise and glory go to Him. Shalom, Ox. James cooked it. Shalom, shalom. But yeah, it's just some questionnaires. He don't have to go through all of them. Just whatever he feels like. Hey, I see an issue with this, or I see an issue with. I don't know if you can see an issue. It's just really just answering the questions. It's just how one is going to answer these questions. Again, the other brothers last time, shouts out to them, House of Bread. I'm at the Bread and Wine podcast. That was a very good dialogue, and brothers do have some questions with it though. I guess they'll address them. They'll address them later on a few things. I didn't have many issues with anything they were saying for the most part. And I didn't know that they were going to be coming from that stance. Brother James says, I'm new to the truth. Can I ask a question before y'all speak? Absolutely. That's why we're here. We're here for the questions. We're here for the questions, and I answer it to the best of my ability, Let me put that link back in here. This again is for James, who's supposed to be coming on. But you can if you want to come up here and ask some questions real quick, and then once he comes on, we'll go ahead and get started. But that's the link out there again for Brother James. And I pray y'all been having a great day, man. I did a video earlier about the just trying to help us navigate that blue letter. And like I said, I'm not the expert on the blue letter, but I did have an interesting dialogue around the end of the video. It was going over, I forget what verse it was, but we were going over that healing. Because I know we are cursed right now. Are we cursed right now? Are we? So are we being judged twice, or is that after Yahweh Shai comes? Yeah, are we? There's a text that says we were released from the curse. He redeemed us from the curse, becoming a curse for himself. That would need to be navigated. That's a very powerful verse. And it just depends on how one interprets it. I really haven't seen a lot of One West interpreting that verse and what that what that truly means. What curse did Christ redeem us from, becoming a curse for himself? But he who hangs on a tree, and us understanding that, and us even seeing what's going on in these, a lot of people talking about this World War III, and I'm gonna open the panel up for that too. How we concluding that the World War III is Gog Magog, and how we put that eschatologically before a lot of other things, but because that Gog Magog should be, written. But like I said, it can be whenever it want to be. Whenever the Lord wanted to be, it could be. But that final war is really coming up against Christ in this millennial kingdom. Shalom, Maki. Let me find this verse for you, brother. And that's one of the things I've been I've been thinking about is how are we cursed and under grace? Are we cursed and under grace and mercy? Does that combine? Is that the same thing? Like, how can we be cursed and be under grace and mercy? But like I say, once you start pulling one of these blocks, a whole bunch of other things start to unravel. And these are just things we don't talk about. We say about it. We talk about grace, but we don't go to the extent of it. We'll say, well, I got grace, I can repent. And is that the case with the Deuteronomy 28? Or we can't repent from that, or we don't have grace from that anymore. The Galatians 3:13, but let me just go up and just to make sure we aren't missing any context here. Those Galatians you have been. Let's start at verse 10. It says, "For as many as are of the works of the law are under the curse. For it is written, cursed is everyone that continueth not in all things which are written in the book of the law to do them." And so, we have to sit down on that. We got to sit down on that. All right. For as many, let me read it for you. See, it says, "But those who depend on the law to make them right with God, and under the curse are under his curse. For the scriptures say, cursed is everyone who does not observe to obey all the commandments that are written in God's book of the law." Meaning, if you thinking that you finna keep this law and you keeping these commandments going to get you saved, you're wrong. That's why we have to have faith in Christ, because we're not going to keep the law. We haven't kept it. We never kept it. And so, yeah, we're obedient and we do what we can, but you're not keeping Passover. You're not keeping, you eating lamb, and we're commemorating the day, but we're not doing it according to the book. We're not keeping the Sabbath according to the book. We're not. We confuse the, we doing the Sabbath on all kind of days. We got the lunar Sabbath, and that's not how we get perfected. We get perfected through the blood of the Lamb. All right, through the blood of the Lamb is how we get perfected. But if you rely totally on these things, on the law to save you, then you're going to be cursed. And then you're going to be cursed because why? You're going to fail. You're not going to meet the expectations. All have fallen short of the glory of God. You're not going to meet the requirements. All right, it's only one who's done that. And you can go and let these folks try to finesse you with the, Job was perfect and Zechariah was perfect. And you got to even look into that word of that perfect and being under the law, where you had the blood that could be shed from these animals and so forth. And, but you don't have that now. You don't have that now. And the Most High, you don't have it because the Most High got tired of it and destroyed the temple. So let me read back because I done went on a rant. I asked that because only 1/3 will be saved. I wish all my brothers and sisters will make it to the kingdom. I've been hearing a lot of camps talking about that. Israel is what I mean. That's why I asked you. Thank you, God. Yeah. We know the prophecy that that 2/3 will be cast out, but it's only a few gonna find it. We talking about the 2/3, but only a few are gonna make it in. Only a remnant. But some brothers will say, "Hey, man, all Israel gonna be saved." There's a lot of camps that teach that also, and that they'll burn in the lake of fire, but then they'll be reincarnated back into the kingdom. Um, so it's a lot. It's a lot out. There's a lot of confusion out there. But you gotta navigate those things. I'm gonna be working on that too. Some of this stuff that I brought out about us being under grace and the curse, and that us being redeemed from the curse. Let me go ahead and continue reading here. But verse 11 says, "But that no man is justified by the law in the sight of God, it is evident, for the just shall live by faith, and that the law is not of faith, but the man that doeth them shall live in them. Christ hath redeemed us from the curse of the law, being made a curse for us, for it is written, Cursed is everyone that hangeth on a tree, that the blessing of Abraham might come on the Gentiles through Jesus through Jesus Christ, that we might receive the promise of spirit through faith." All right. So what is that verse 13? All right. What is that? How did Christ, him hanging on a tree, how did that redeem us from the curse, and what curse would that be? And that would be a good question to ask, to ask our brothers. Is it the curse of Adam that Adam received and Eve received? Did we redeem from that curse, or was it Deuteronomy's curse, 28's curse? And why are we recycling these things if that's the case? And grace and mercy being involved also with curses. And we're receiving both. Last brother I asked, he was like, "Yeah, we do both." And I don't think I agree with that. But let me let this brother on. His brother's here. Let me let the brother on and introduce himself. All right, brother Reuben Ingram. Shalom, brother.
Shalom, brother Phoenix.
Phineas.
Phoenix.
Yeah,
How's it going this evening?
it's going pretty good, brother.
Well, thank you for having me.
Not a problem. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm brother Reuben.
Okay.
Um, I claim to be a Hebrew Israelite, and I'm just here to encourage and lift up all of Yasharel, Israel, and uh, my brothers and sisters in the Messiah, in the Most High, and you know, Yehuda, especially. I truly believe that the black melanated brothers of America are the tribe of Yehuda, and I don't think they've fully stepped into their role as of yet. But I believe that late outpouring of the Ruach, the Spirit, that they will, and all things will be made right when the Messiah returns and he gathers us together. So um, I'm just here humbly, and just here to learn and to edify. So thank you.
Not a problem. Appreciate you coming on. So let's go ahead and get right into it, brother Reuben. What you need me to pull the slides up?
As far as the topic goes,
Correct.
sure.
Because you wanted to speak on the slides, or you have something else you wanted to speak on?
No, this is my first time on your channel.
Uh-huh.
So I've visited a few different channels, but yeah, this is my first time to visit your channel, and so far, I've liked what you had to say. So yeah, I'd just like to get to know you and hear your side of things too. So
Okay. What you want to hear, like my understanding on certain things, or the difference between me and other groups, or um
yeah, Yeah. I mean, we obviously know that there's divisions in the different sects of Hebrews. Those who call themselves Hebrews and Israelites. So, uh, I would believe and assume that you are calling yourself a Hebrew.
Correct.
So, yeah, man, I seek for unity, man, and there's nothing more beautiful than unity, in the body of Messiah, and it's like oil running down Aharon's beard. So, yeah, I just seek for unity.
Okay, kind. Yeah, there are several distinctions, just like in every religion or every ideology. There are distinctions uh between the groups. There's a lot of different doctrinal things. A lot of foundational things are the same, but um, we can go back and forth on some of the doctrinal differences between the groups. There's groups um, that believe Gentiles can have salvation. That's what the PDF pretty much is about. There's
Okay.
groups that say that salvation is only for Israel, the blacks, Latinos, Native Americans. There's
Mm-hmm.
groups i- there's groups that believe the Sabbath is one day and is this day or it's supposed to be kept this day. Moon is the new moon is this and the new moon is full moon, dark moon, slithered moon. Um,
Yeah. So if we could just stick with those three or four things, that'd be great with me, and just stay on topic, of if you want two of the Gentiles and where they stand, in all of this. Yeah.
okay, we can do that. I say this. But what's your stance? My stance is that Gentiles can be saved. And fellow heirs. What is your stance?
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, I think the scriptures clearly teach us that Gentiles will become a part of the fold, and co-heirs with Yasharel. And there's a lot to that, and there's a lot that could be said about that. um, we can't deny that those who have taken Yasharel captive, that they will become the captive themselves. Uh, Yet we see that clearly the Messiah, he come with the help of the disciples. They called Gentiles into the fold, and they were accepted. And um, my question is that, do we see any Gentiles become elders of Yasharel through the disciples during the Messiah's time? So that would be my question: is that can Gentiles become elders, or are Gentiles just kind of a part of the commonwealth?
Um, well, during the disciples, there were a time with a proselyte um was chosen to be somewhat an elder. Um, I want to say this is in Acts 6. Let me instead of me doing this, let me share this screen and we'll look at this. And to be this person that they selected to be in charge of this situation, they had to have certain requirements. Hold on one second. Let me
Uh,
share my.
just real quick, while you're looking for that, wasn't Timothy's dad a Greek, and his
Correct.
his his mom was a Jew,
Correct.
and so
Timothy would be if we're saying that if we're saying well most Israelites feel that you are what your father is through your father's seed. then he would be in a Greek.
Right. But Timothy was ultimately an elder.
But Timothy was an elder, correct? That's a great point. You can even some would even say Caleb. You know, brothers on last night was saying, well, the other night was saying that even Caleb, being a Kenizzite, was a Gentile.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you really got a plethora because even Jethro was a
Yeah.
Gentile. Even the Rechabites in Jeremiah 35 were Gentiles.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
a
And all of Rahab's family was accepted into the fold of Yasharel, and we can only assume what was the outcome of Rahab's family, but we know that Rahab was a part of the lineage of the Messiah, right?
correct, correct. And she was listed, I think, too, in those of faith in that Hebrews 11.
Mm.
Um, I think I had to check it though. I had to make sure, but um, let me share my screen with that Acts 6, where they selected this proselyte to be leading over this situation. Am I sharing my screen? Yeah. Okay. It says there was one in the synagogue. Okay. Here, brethren, outcome. Please the whole family. Okay. Verse 6, it says, whom set before the apostles, and they had prayed, and they laid. Matter of fact, let me go up a little bit. Verse 3 says, wherefore, brethren, look ye out among you 7 men. Let me just start at verse 1. It says, in those days when the number of disciples were multiplied, there arose a murmuring of the Grecians against the Hebrews, because their widows were neglected in daily administration. There was a murmuring between the Grecians. These are Greek speaking Jews, against the Hebrews, the regular Jews, who, they didn't speak, they spoke Hebrew, because their widows were neglected in daily administration. They were neglecting the Greek speaking Jews. It was some animosity. There's a little animosity there. Then the 12 called the multitude of the disciples unto them and said, it is not reason that we should leave the word of God and serve tables. All right. The 12 are saying, listen, man, we shouldn't be leaving the ministry to be waiting tables. Somebody needs to take care of this situation between these Greek speaking Jews and the regular Jews. Wherefore, brethren, look ye out among you 7 men of honest report, full of the Holy Ghost and wisdom, who we may appoint over the business. All right, that's the qualifications of who they're looking for. Uh, among 7 men of honest report, full of the Holy Ghost and wisdom, who they may appoint over this business. But we give ourselves continually to prayer and the ministry of the word. And the same pleased the whole multitude, and they chose Stephen, a man full of faith in the Holy Ghost, and Philip, and Prochorus, and Nicanor, and Timon, and Parmius, Parmenius, and Nicholas, a proselyte of Antioch. All right, so Nicholas, a proselyte, that would be a heathen. And this is a part of the timeline where they're not even going to Gentiles yet. All right, Paul hadn't had his road to Damascus event yet. They haven't seen the great sheep come down with all the animals on it, and
Yeah, that was
Cornelius
Peter.
hadn't happened yet.
That
Yeah,
was
Peter.
Peter.
Yeah, Peter, where
Yeah.
the sheep came down.
Yeah.
But all of that's connected to now this ministry is finna be spread to the Gentiles. But before that, they were only going to the Jews. But they still have Nicholas, a proselyte, a heathen, who's been converted in. Before that even situation even happened. You
Yeah.
had converts and proselytes.
Right. So Paul was sent to the Jews, and Peter was sent to the Gentiles.
No, Peter was sent to the Jews. Paul was sent to the Gentiles.
No, I beg to differ, brother. I think Paul was sent to the Jews because I remember specifically Paul saying, "Look, I'm done with you guys. I'm going to the Gentiles." He was fed up with the Jews,
Right.
and
That's what Paul said. Paul said, "Yes, I'm done. Now I'm taking my ministry to the it was first I had to come to y'all, but now I'm taking my ministry to the Gentiles."
mm,
But
right,
only Paul did that. Nobody else. Let me look
right.
at Galatians 3. We go back to that Galatians 3. It may be 2. No, I think it's 2. Um yeah, we'll start at verse 1. Unawares. Yeah, we'll start at verse 1. It says, then 14, Galatians chapter 2, verse 1 says, then 14 years after I went up again to Jerusalem with Barnabas and took Titus with me also, I went up by revelation and communicated unto them that the gospel which I preach among the Gentiles, but privately to them which are of reputation, least by any means I should run or had run in vain. But neither Titus, who was with me, being a Greek, was compelled to be circumcised. And that compelled to be circumcised, meaning he wasn't asked to be circumcised. Nobody asked him. All right, nobody was trying to force him to be circumcised. Meaning it was a good day that because they would have did it, but nobody compelled him to do it. Verse 4, and that because of false brethren unawares brought in, who came in privily to spy out the liberty which we have in Christ Jesus, that they might bring us into bondage, to whom we gave place by subjugation, no, not for an hour, to whom we gave place by subjugation, no, not for an hour, that the truth of the gospel might continue with you. But of these whom seem to be somewhat, or whatsoever they were, it maketh no matter to me. God accepteth no man's persons. For they who have seemed to be somewhat in conference added nothing to me. But contrariwise, when they saw that the gospel of the uncircumcision, that's Gentiles, was committed unto me, as the gospel of the circumcision, that's Jews, was committed unto Peter. So Paul is telling you that the gospel of the uncircumcision, the gospel for the Gentiles, was committed unto me. That's my job. The gospel of the circumcision was unto Peter. For
Right.
he that wrought effectually in Peter to the apostleship of the circumcision, the same was mighty in me toward the Gentiles. Same power Peter used, that he received his power from, that same source gave him the apostleship to the circumcision, the Jews. Same was mighty in me toward the Gentiles. And when James, Cephas, and John, who seemed to be pillars, perceived the grace that was given unto me, they gave to me and Barnabas the right hand of fellowship, that we should go unto the heathen. All right, circumcision, heathen, that's all the same thing. And they go into the circumcision. We gonna go to the heathen, the uncircumcised, the Gentiles, and James, Cephas, and John, they're gonna go to the circumcision. Only that we should remember the poor and saying, which I also was for to do.
Okay, so I stand corrected. Thank you for bringing that
Not a problem.
to the forefront. Real quick, if I can ask a question, um, I do seek to edify, um, you know, my tribe of Yehuda, and they're labeled as Black Hebrew Israelites and camps and whatnot. And I've been reaching out to them. Phoenix Sakari is one of them I've had this discussions with, and Miami Trap Stars, Rob with Miami Trap Stars, and Taz with Phoenix Sakari. How would you refute them claiming that the word Gentile only means an Israelite who lost his identity?
Well, that's pretty much why I got that PDF. That's exactly what the PDF is for them to kind of navigate themselves out of that line of thinking. Um, a Gentile is, and that's our main stumbling block. But for one, and there's many, they answer many different ways. and I've gone back and forth with the leader of Sakari. I'm very familiar with a lot of Israelite doctrines. I make garments for Israel, so I'm familiar with a lot of brothers, even though I'm not very popular, but I'm very familiar within Israelite leadership.
Okay.
What there's a pre-notion that, and this is gonna answer your question too, brother James cooked it. There's the pre-notion of the Northern Kingdom going to America in 7th century BC. And when you take that notion, all right, and that's one of my questions on here. Let me one of my questions on here. Well, first I'm gonna have them define all of these terms first. But this is one of the questions: when did Northern Kingdom Israel return from the Syrian captivity? When did they return? Now there, and I asked for book, chapter, and verse. I know there ain't a book, chapter, and verse that shows them returning. And if they didn't return after 700 BC, then how is Paul going and talking to them? How is Paul's whole ministry to go talk to them? Now, that's not Sakari's ideology. That's most Israelites' ideology. That's not Sakari's ideology. Their ideology is that the Israelites that they're going to have lost their identity because they have mingled in with the Gentiles. The thing is, we've always mingled with the Gentiles. And when we see Acts 2, we see Israelites coming from all nations on the four corners of the earth. You have nations, you have Israelites coming from every nation. They didn't lose their identity. If somebody lost their identity, it's because they didn't want to be an Israelite no more. It's not something where they've been so far from the culture that they have no idea that they're Israelites. Everywhere that Peter and the disciples are going to in their ministry, they're going to synagogues that's already set up within Antioch. They're already set up within Rome. There's a synagogue there. All right. And then the synagogue not only has Jews in it, but it also has Gentiles there. And so even with Priscilla and Aquila, they were coming down from Rome. You know, matter of fact, the emperor, if you get into that history, why they got kicked out of Rome, it was because of beefing in the synagogues, going back and forth in the synagogues, and the Rome like, man, y'all got to get up out of here. But Rome wasn't getting involved with, oh, y'all can't keep you can't keep your faith. That did happen under the Greeks during the Maccabean revolt, about 167 to like 165 or 164 BC, where we were told that we couldn't keep our Sabbaths and so forth, and we couldn't keep the law. That did happen, but that was only 3 years of 3 years of them keeping us from doing that, of persecution rather. Before Judas Maccabees, if you're familiar with the Maccabean revolt, before Judas Maccabees rose up, and him and his brothers and the rest of Israel got up and fought back against the Greeks and defeated them. And then if you look at, I want to say First Maccabees 2 verse 48, you'll see Judas Maccabees went and he circumcised all the kids. I don't have my sword, my apocrypha with me, but yeah, First Maccabees 2 and 48. It goes into that Judas Maccabees went for those 3 years that we weren't getting circumcised. It says he went and tried to he circumcised all the kids that weren't, all the children that didn't get circumcised. And so when you understand that, you can't go to the text and take, oh, well, the uncircumcision is Israelites. You can't take that there, because Judas Maccabees, we're celebrating the Feast of Dedication, where we're rededicating the temple. We're getting the temple back together. And it's very important history that you have to understand that, because that's where the Pharisees come from. That's where the Sadducees come from. And that's where we have synagogues. Synagogues aren't law. Synagogues aren't Torah. Synagogues is something that the Pharisees decided and said, man, Torah need to be taught everywhere. We need Torah synagogues all over the place. Let's build some synagogues. Like we were supposed to worship at the temple. The priest's lips supposed to keep knowledge. That's in Malachi. We supposed to learn from the priests. Um, but during this time, man, if you understand the Maccabees and the Hasmonean dynasty, that's something to cue on, and the different kings and also a queen there that got us back to keeping Torah. And so when we get back into the like the time of Christ, let's look at John 8:32. Look at the mind frame of Jews. In John 8:32 here. I love to use this point because we're bold. Verse 1, John 8:31. It says, then Jesus said to the Jews which believed on him, if you continue in my word, then ye are my disciples indeed, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. They answered him, we be Abraham's seed, and were never in bondage to any man. How sayest thou we shall be made free? And this is not that this is a true statement, but this is more of the ideology that Jews had back then. We not fooling with that trash. Now what you mean? What you mean we been in bond? We ain't been in no bondage. And this is where people are saying, oh well, you have this great bondage. And if it is that great bondage, how are we fighting them in 70 AD? How are we fighting them in 130 something AD with the Bar Kokhba revolt? All right, if we're slaves don't, this ain't, we had a military. We're fighting these people back for bringing this idolatry, in our temples. Brothers trying to slay pork in our temples and bring in, I think it was Claudius, Emperor Claudius, tried to get us to worship his image in our temple, and it caused a revolt. It caused the 70 AD situation. But and again, that's the what is that in Daniel, man? The defamation. I can't think of it. It's a terminology that fits prophecy there. But you got any questions with anything? I know that's a lot of information there, but yeah, the northern kingdom is not there. So one would have to say, well, Sakari would say, well, no, he's talking to other Jews. So it's Jews who lost their identity, and then there's Jews who are just Jews. But we just seen too, we were just reading in Acts 6 where we have Greek speaking Jews. Like all they speak is Greek. All they know is Greek. All of us are man, it was millions of us living in Alexandria, Egypt. All right, Josephus writes it was millions of us living there. And not that we weren't trying to keep the law. It was better. It was a better situation. It was a better quality of life. They were trying to get some money. They went around and stayed near ports and so forth. But you run into problems when you say, well, let's take the Jews, the northern kingdom out. And you just got the Jews here, and you got the Jews who allegedly lost their identity. And we have to wake them up. Or Paul's going to wake these Jews up. You're gonna have problems with navigating Romans 11, because Romans 11, you need at least three pieces. You need the branches that broke off. You need the branches, the natural branches, and then you got branches that broke off. And then you have a wild olive tree who's being grafted in, the opposite, against, contrary to nature, meaning this ain't natural. This ain't a natural situation, a natural occurrence where this wild olive tree can be grafted in. And those who deal with the northern kingdom, you just don't have that. And if you go to the word, if you look up the word Jew in the Zondervan dictionary, which we love, if you look up the word Jew there, it'll tell you that even the northern kingdom was considered Jew, because Judah, the southern kingdom, was the only kingdom there. So everybody living there eventually just became a Jew. That's all they were saying. And that's kind of what the text is showing us. That's why we just see, Jew and Greek. We don't see Jew, Israel, or Jew, northern kingdom in Greek, because the northern kingdom now is Samaria and um, and Galilee. And even Samaria, if you deal with the woman at the well that he met at the well, we want to say that that's an Israelite. Um, but the woman at the well, she's pointing at the temple and saying, "Hey, our father said we supposed to be celebrating at this temple back here." And Israel, the Jews destroyed the temple. We we fought them 100 years before Christ. We conquered Samaria and put them under taxation and destroyed that temple. She pointed at. And the reason we destroyed it because we hated Samaritans. The reason we hated Samaritans more than we hated Edomites, because we converted the Edomites. And that's another one for you, brother James. We converted the Edomites during the Hasmonean dynasty. There was a king of Israel named John Hyrcanus who conquered Edom and forced them to be converted and forced them into circumcision. And eventually, this is end up how Herod the Great ended up becoming the king in Israel. You have to know this history to connect all of this. And I'm gonna be honest, Israel just getting into the Hasmonean dynasty. They're just starting to teach on that. Out of the 50, 60 years that we've been doing this thing. But you have to understand why is Herod considered a Jew? Why is he developing our temple? It's because he got converted. And not just him, you have some people in the Bible too called Herodians. But the Pharisees and the Herodians and the Sadducees. The Herodians are the Edomites. And they pledged to Herod. But he got in because, Herod helped John Hyrcanus. Where was his sons end up getting into a fight? And he helped them. He helped one of the kings get the throne back. And then, during the fight, and Rome gets involved, and they like, well, what's going on? And Herod, like, well, I had to help them do that, and da 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 da. And so they put Herod. They would say, so they stopped us from fighting each other, because that's messing up their money. And they end up putting Herod in there, because of the reputation he had with Rome and with Israel, and that he was a Edom. He was a Edomite. All right, so it kind of balanced thing, and and that goes back to him and his sons Agrippa and so forth. But they were converted. They were forced converted. They didn't force convert the Samaritans. They didn't want to. They didn't want us to convert them. And it was because of a beef there. That's why Christ had to go around Samaria. That's why he wanted them to go around Samaria. Well, not just him, but Israel for the most part was having to go around Samaria. Samaritans really didn't like them or let them come through the land because of that beef. But a lot of this we're missing in the context. We're just making things fit and ignoring a lot of history there.
Yeah, that was one of my arguments, that once you're Yasharel, or Yehuda, that you're not going to lose your identity. You might convert to being a Greek, but ultimately you're not going to lose your identity as a Jew, as a Yahudim. So that was definitely one of my arguments. And then you're right, about knowing the true history of all these different kings and pharaohs and Caesars, and all the timeline of what's taking place, at the split of the northern tribes and the southern tribes, and where they've been, and you mentioned the Maccabees, and what took place there, and you mentioned King Herod, and him being basically a Hellenist, And you mentioned, being a mixed race, and you mentioned the Samaritans, and you mentioned, the synagogues, and how Gentiles and Jews were, fellowshipping together in those synagogues. And in the Brit, we can see where, the Gentile and the Jew were hungry for the truth, and they pleaded with the disciples to come back, next Shabbat, and bring the Basora, the good news, uh, to them, so that they can hear it again. Um, so so yeah, it's awesome to hear another brother that's on the same page. When it comes to uh, salvation is for all of mankind that would believe, on the Messiah. So that's really encouraging. One question that I would have, and that I think is really important, is: do you, brother Phineas, see the Messiah as the Father in the flesh?
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't believe in a Trinity or oneness, or I see the Father as the Father and the Son as the Son. That He's the Son of Yah. Uh, and I kind of leave it there.
Okay, all right. So maybe another time and another place, I would love to discuss that with you. That's it's one of my favorite discussions, and I think it's very important. I think it's salvational, and I think it's detrimental to the assembly. And I believe wholeheartedly that the Messiah is the Father in the flesh. So maybe another time in another
We can
place.
talk about it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, we can talk about it now. What
cool.
would you use to substantiate that the Son is the Father? So you believe? Are you a Trinitarian? Are you oneness? Or that you believe that? Um, are you a modalist?
I'm
Uh,
not. I'm not. I guess if you was to label me, I would be a modalist or a oneness.
mm,
I'm definitely not a Trinitarian. Uh, you would be labeled to me as an Arianist, or
yeah,
what,
yeah.
or
I'm
what?
kind of yeah, yeah. No, I'm kind of. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah,
Yeah,
I am similar to an Arianist. Yeah.
yeah. So I just completely disagree with that. I think it's I
Mm.
think it's man I think it's man made. But you know, one of the foundational scriptures that I use is Isaiah 43:10. You are my witnesses. It is a declaration of Yahuwah and my servant, whom I have chosen, so that you may know and believe me and understand that I am He. Before me, no Elohim was formed, and there will none be after me. Verse 11: I am Yahuwah, or I am the Master, and there is no Savior besides me. I alone declared, I saved, and I proclaimed, and not some foreign Elohim among you. It is a declaration. I am Elohim, From eternity, I am he. None can deliver from my hand. I act, and who can reverse it? These are the same words that Yahushua HaMashiach himself used in the New Testament.
Are you talking about the I am part?
Yes, and that he is the Savior,
Okay. You want
and
to go
that
to
he
the you want to go
and
to
that
the
he
verse
is
where
Elohim.
you want to go to the verse where it says that in the New Testament?
John 8:24, I believe.
Thought I was showing my screen, y'all. My bad. Hold on. Wait, yeah. Let me add that to the stage. I am he, that John 8:24, right?
Yeah.
And right. And man, for me, that's like real, that's just real stretchy to say that. And I get it because even translations, what they'll do is they will put that in all capital letters. The I am he, right? They'll put
Yeah,
all of that in
I
capital
think
letters to
he
try
was
to
added.
emphasize.
He was added.
And he was added. Yep, he is in italic. Um, and so to say that Christ is saying that in an instance of saying that, yeah, I am he that's spoken of, the same I am he in Isaiah 43:10, um, that's kind of stretchy for me.
Mm.
That's kind of stretchy for me, and it seems like it's someone's trying to imply something. Let me show. Do you believe that the Son and the Father have the same? They the same people, and they have the same power, the same authority?
So here's the thing. Here's where it gets a little complicated. And the reason why I say that is because the Son come through a woman and was, I want to be careful with my words because I don't want them to be twisted and conjured some other direction that I'm not intending. But I believe that the Father lowered himself and that he put on flesh and became the Son, and the Son has a mind, will, and emotions, that he was a man, fully man, and yet fully the creator of the universe at the same time. So therefore he spoke as a man under authority, and then he spoke as the one in authority at times. So yes, there are scriptures that speak of him being under authority, but then there's scriptures where he spoke with authority.
Yeah, that was. Then it's also scriptures where he, no one knows the time except the Father. You know, and the head of man. I mean, the head of man is Christ, and the head of Christ is the Father. Um, there's a lot of passages where that's saying things like this, and then if we take your methodology, I have to say that when he was on earth, he was we didn't have no God. The God was on earth. Wasn't no God over or we have to say with Sakari like to say all the time. We have to say that God died for 3 days, and we didn't have a God for 3 days. Um,
See, I would argue that he's omnipresent.
but you would say what you would say God died. Even
Yeah.
Muslims are going to attack that. That's why Muslims always attack the Trinity, Because if you say God died, how can God die?
But what was he doing when he died though? Like he didn't literally die spiritually. He died physically. Physically, his body died. He was in the grave for 3 days physically, but spiritually though, Peter tells us that he was in the belly of the earth for 3 days ministering to the fallen angels. You can't do that.
No. So I listen. He's under he's the son of Yah. I'm not the son of Yah. He's the son of Yah. He's king of this earth. But he's not the father. He can't do what the father can do. Also, when Stephen died, and in Revelations 4, we see the Father on the throne, and then we see Christ standing next to him. Is he still Christ in the heavenly realm? Is he still Christ? He doesn't go back to the Father and just be one.
All right, so let me give you this to ponder on. Okay, what if I told you that the Son, and just from my stance as he is the Father in the flesh, that the work of him as the Son is the Father's work. So, for example, we see in Revelation and towards the end of Revelation that the Lamb and the Father, right? That the Lamb, part of him is the work that he put in upon the cross. But ultimately, in the spiritual realm, as a spirit, as one spirit, that ultimately it's the Father as one person on the throne. And I'll just back this up real quick with Ezekiel chapter 1 and Enoch chapter 1. And the reason why I bring that up is because that's the Old Testament. That's before the Messiah, that there is no lamb. There is no Yahusha. When we get this picture of the throne, and this is really important, we get the picture of the throne, we get the picture of the four living creatures, and there's no lamb. There's no Son of Man when these pictures are painted in First Enoch and Ezekiel chapter 1. It's just one and one only on the throne. So I would say that the Lamb, part of him is his work on this earth and what he did.
What about the Lamb from the foundation of the earth? You believe the Lamb was made from the foundation of the earth? That the Lamb had already been here before anything had been here?
Yeah. His work was prophesied. He was crucified before the foundation of the earth. Like he knew what he was going to do before it was ever played out. So yeah, I mean he's omnipresent. He's omniscient. Like he knows what's going to transpire before it transpires. So yeah.
I'm gonna have to close out with you, brother Ruben. I thought you were the brother that had the questions with the slides, and the brother been waiting for 40-50 minutes patiently, man. He been waiting for 40-50 minutes patiently to go over the slides. I thought you were him, but I think you just hit the link. So I'm gonna have to close up with you on some final give you some final words with it. And then we can come back and we can set something up, brother Ruben. You can email me. I'll put my email in the description once this is done, and we can come back to that dialogue because it is a very important dialogue.
Okay. Sounds good. I will just say Kwam Yasharala, and I love you guys, and yeah, you keep your heads up, and check out Jeremiah, and Isaiah about the second Exodus, man, and uh, you know, get on those knees, and face the east, and stay in that word, and deny your flesh, and uh, keep looking up for your redemption draws near, and I appreciate y'all. Thank you, brother Phineas, and um, I love you guys, man, and shalom Yasharel.
All right, shalom, brother. Kwame Yasharala. We love you too, brother. All right, we'll build again, y'all will. Shalom. Shalom, brother. Man, apologies, brother. I thought that was you. I thought it was you, brother James. Your mic is muted, brother. But you go ahead and speak. And the floor is yours, man. And you just introduce yourself, and we can go in. I put the slides up. My bad, brother.
Hey, Shalom, can you hear me, brother?
I can hear you out.
Hey, bro, I don't know how you mistake me for him, bro. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how you do that, bro.
You said how I do what now?
How you mistake me for him, bro? I mean, he ain't no Israelite. You know what I'm saying?
Man, you don't know that. Even if I was even if I had the blacks, Latino, you don't know, man. You don't know. You don't know. You don't know what nationality he is. We barely know our nationality. If we be honest, if we really honest with ourselves, you just got to try the spirit.
Hey, didn't he say that he was a convert?
No, he didn't say that. I didn't hear him say that. But he gave salute to Reuben. He's saying Kwam Yasha. He's speaking to Lashawan Quadash. Why you want to go at the brother? You don't know that. You don't know his name. You just going at him off a dark video in his skin color. Got to be careful with that. Even even with a One West understanding, because he didn't look no different than Katazai to me.
Well, Katazai isn't an Israelite.
You said Katazai? Okay, well, you may have a different. Okay, wait a minute. I jumped to conclusions. So, what are you, a Negro only Israelite?
Of course. Well, the Bible says that.
Okay. My bad, brother. My bad. I jumped to conclusions. Okay, you a Negro only Israelite. Are you with FOPE?
No.
You're not with FOPE? Okay. Where you want to start? Oh yeah, you just let us know. Are you with any organization, or you dolo?
No organization. I have my own group of brothers that I teach. My personal background, I come out of the original One West school in New York. A lot of these brothers today in ISUPK, these brothers are not One West. These brothers are fake. They're ISUPK. That's a watered down fake ISUPK. That's not the original school. Tazariak have never stepped in the school in New York. Not a day in his life he stepped in the school in New York. He's not One West. He ain't even spoke to the elders personally, so he don't know. I don't know what he's talking about. He ain't One West.
But was One West original school? Did they believe Latinos, Native Americans? Was that the ideology? Was the chart there when you were there?
Yes, the chart was there when I'm saying that Tazariak claiming to be One West and he ain't never stepped in the school.
Oh yeah, he just never. That's not the original One West. I get you.
Right, he not the original. Right, so he not One West.
Okay,
that's all I'm saying. Again, I want to be clear. I don't agree with the chart. Let me be clear. I don't believe Mexicans are Israelites, and I don't believe Native Americans are Israelites. I just want to be clear.
Got you.
All right. You told me you can allow me to rock out, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I can go where I want to go, right? Let me start here. Let me.
You gonna deal with the slides or no? You just finna.
No,
you just finna teach.
I'm just gonna rock out like you asked me to.
So you ain't gonna deal with the slides. I can't just let you rock out now. I can't just. If you're saying something that I disagree, if you're rocking out, but if you're gonna answer the questions on the slide, I can give you that. But if you just I can't just let you feed my audience anything now if I disagree with it. You know, I gotta.
No problem. You can
Okay.
stop me at any point, but I'm a rocker, but I'm gonna deal with what you have on the chart.
Okay, got you.
All right. I can't share my screen, correct?
You need to share your screen.
Yes.
I may not know how to do that, my brother. Hold on.
Let me try to share and see.
Yeah.
It seems to be allowing me to share.
It is?
Yes.
Okay.
I want to start it because you had a question earlier, and I want to start here. Can you see that?
Hold on. Wait. Yeah, I got you now. That's why I didn't. You know why I didn't see you, brother? Because I had the first 4 things filled up, and I didn't know I had to scroll down. Hold on. Wait, I gotta remove mine first, I think. Okay. All right, we in there. Go ahead, brother.
Right. You had a question earlier. You was asking that when did the Northern Kingdom come back from the Assyrian captivity? Correct. That's one of your question, right?
Correct.
So we hear in First Chronicles chapter 9, verse 1. Correct. Right here.
Mm.
This says, so all the Israelites were reckoned by genealogy, and behold, they were written in the book of the kings of Israel and Judah, who were carried away to Babylon for their transgression. Now the first inhabitants that dwell in their possession in their cities were the Israelites. This is the return from Babylon. He said, well, the priests, the Levites, and the Nethinims. And in Jerusalem dwelt the children of Judah, and the children of Benjamin, and the children of Ephraim, and Manasseh. These are northern kingdom here. They're in Jerusalem when they came back from the Babylonian captivity.
So but how did they go into the? Well, go ahead. I apologize. Go ahead.
No, I'm showing you that in Jerusalem from the return from the Babylonian captivity, you had northern kingdom in Jerusalem at the time. You was asking where did we see that in the text? Anyway, I'm showing right here. It talks about, and I'm gonna give you another one too as well. We see Ephraim and Manasseh here is also in Jerusalem, and from the return from the Babylonian captivity. So we have northern kingdom in Jerusalem in the 1st century. This is the verse right here.
What was my question again?
Your question was, can you show northern kingdom returning from the Assyrian captivity?
To the Assyrian captivity. What are you showing?
I'm showing you that we have northern kingdom here in Jerusalem from when the Israelites came from the Babylonian captivity. So obviously these Ephraimites and Manasseh, if your understanding is that they went into the Assyrian captivity, then we see them here present when the ones came back from Babylon.
Got you. I understand what you're saying. So you're saying, but I just want to make sure that you understand that these were taken into they couldn't have been taken into the Assyrian captivity. These northern kingdom were taken into the Babylonian captivity. And if we remember that I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, brother.
Where Hezekiah wrote the epistle to the northern kingdom when they first got taken. The first batch got taken. He wrote an epistle for them to come down and keep Passover. You familiar with that? Where King Hezekiah wrote an epistle to the northern kingdom, the remnant that was left after like the first attack, and he wrote an epistle for them to come to Passover. So some remnant came to Passover, but they weren't taken. What I'm showing, I just want you to understand that these northern kingdomers that went into Babylon, they weren't taken in the Assyrian captivity. They were in Judah, and Judah was taken by Babylon, and these people were living in Judah and got taken into Babylon captivity. And these are those that are returning back. You agree with that?
Yes, I agree with that. My point was to just show that they were northern kingdom.
That was in the land. That was in Judah, like the sister from the tribe of Asher that was at
Yes,
Christ.
Northern Kingdom
Right.
was present there. Yeah, that was my
Right.
point of showing
Correct. I agree with that.
that. Okay.
But my
Was there?
question was, when did the Northern Kingdom come back from the Assyrian captivity? When did those people come back from the Assyrian captivity? We know that there was a return from the Babylonian, that Northern Kingdom was there, but and I asked it in a specific way. But I do agree with with the text that you just read, and that there was Northern Kingdom in Judah, or that's Northern Kingdom were around during that Pacific time, during the time of Christ.
All right. The next thing I want to share is where we at here. I want to deal with the word Gentile. Let me share my screen. Can you see this? Let me blow it
Yeah,
up.
I had to zoom a page in.
Let me blow it up. I'm gonna blow mine up. Let me blow mine
Yeah.
up so we can see. Let me scroll down here. I want to highlight what I want to read here. So we have here. All right. It says, "What is the Gentile?" During the Easter season, reading from Acts, the apostles focused on spreading the good news to all people. One of the central questions faced by early church was how to handle the Gentiles or non-Jew. The word Gentile comes from the Latin gentilis, an adjective meaning belonging to the same family, people, or nation. It's an odd twist in the development of language that this word comes to be used almost as its own antonym to describe those who do not belong to the Jewish nation. Gentile originally means someone from the same family, people, or nation. This is the original meaning of the word when Jerome introduced it into the text. When he's translating it into Latin, he brings in this word gentilis in, and he's translating from the word ethnos, which means nation. Ethnos is what you call a compound noun. It's not dealing with an individual. It's a compound noun, meaning it's nation, race, or people. So you cannot use the word to speak to an individual because it's a compound noun. Ethnos. That's what it means. When he brings ethnos into Latin, he uses the word gentilis, which is the same people, race, or nation. So when Christ is sending Paul out and he used the word Gentile, he's telling him, I'm sending you to your same people, your family, and your nation. This is originally what this word meant in Latin. And going back to the word ethnos, this is how Jerome understood the word to be. That's why he used the word gentilis, to letting us know he's going to his family, his people, or his nation. This is the correct understanding of when you read Acts chapter 9, verse 15, when Christ is then said, he's a chosen vessel unto me to bear my name before the Gentiles. This is the word right here. Now I'm gonna go into a couple of translations originally of how Romans chapter 9, 15 was translated. What we have today in our English translation is mistranslated. It is not translated correct. I'm going to take you back to two codexes that show you that this right here, we have an English version, has been mistranslated to give you the wrong impression that Christ was sending Paul to people that was not of his own nation, which is incorrect. That was not what he was doing. And I'm going to show
Can
other
we look
brothers
at
in the
the Acts 15 too, the Acts 9:15, and then we apply your methodology to it?
yes,
Just after you show, the
definitely.
codexes.
I,
Okay.
yeah, I just want to show. Yeah, I want to show one more thing here. Uh, bring this up and let me see. Not showing me to. It's not telling me to switch. Let me come back. Hold on. It's not telling me. Present again. And let me get this here. I'm gonna show what I'm gonna show. I'm gonna show a corroboration for what I am saying. I'm gonna show and I'm gonna show a corroboration for what I am saying here. Okay, so we have
I'm
here
sorry.
Acts
Let me share it.
9:15. Okay,
I got this up. You
okay.
on Reddit?
So Acts 9:15 is translated from Reddit, right? I guess I'm gonna show corroboration. Yes, there's corroboration here for it as well.
Got you.
9:15 mistranslated. It's a nine. It's Acts 9:15. Can you see this, brother? Do I got to blow it up some more?
Nah, we see it up. We got. Oh no, if you can blow it up, it'd be better to blow it up. But I can see it. It's decent. It's not. It's not like I'm squinching my eyes on that. But I did have to zoom in. I had to, go full screen.
Let me see.
But it's good. Okay, that's great.
Okay, all right. Says Acts 9:15. This verse has been mistranslated in order to favor doctrine over proper translation. Let's take a look at a couple of early Greek New Testament manuscripts for clarification. He brings up Codex Vaticanus in the Greek. It's 1290 BO3. This is 4th century, right? 83 AC1, and he has it here in the Greek. This is how Codex Vaticanus reads this in the Greek. He translates it here into English, and he said to him, "The Lord is going to be And he said to him, "The Lord is going to be a vessel of election to me, and he will stand up for my name before the nations and the kings of the sons of Israel." This is how it originally reads in Codex Vaticanus, going back to the 4th century. Codex Vaticanus.
Go back again for that. I missed that last part you said.
Which last part?
Oh, you just reread the translation. And is this his translation, or is this the translation from the Kodak
this is the Codex
Vaticanus?
This is the Codex Vaticanus.
So that's the translation from the Vaticanus, from the Vaticanus.
Yes.
Or is that him translating it?
No, he's translating from. Again, I'm going to present more evidence on it to show what I'm saying, right? Because there's one thing that we know is that the truth makes sense. We're going to go through it step by step, and I'm going to show you that the way that they think this thing is saying, it can't say that, because that wouldn't make any sense at all. You will find contradictions in the Bible.
Yeah, I just want to know who is he to challenge the scribes. So I need to know what is his accolades and what is his position, if that's his translation. Now, if this is a translation from the Codex Vaticanus, then I ain't got no issue. But if this is just somebody's translation that has read, who's translated themselves on and I need to know their credentials before they're questioning, even the even the King James version. You know what I'm saying? But I'll let you go ahead and ride with it. But I'm just saying we can't. It's. I don't know if this is the actual translation, or is this somebody individually translating this.
If you let me finish, I'm gonna provide you with the evidence. If you let me finish.
Well, I'm looking for the source. You're showing me the evidence, but
I just need the source. The source is Codex Vaticanus. I just show you the source right here.
Okay, and then that translation. Where's the translation from?
This is what they said here in the Greek. He's translating right here.
Who is the he?
I said, if you let me finish, then I can. If you let me finish, like the Bible say, it says, understand first and then rebuke.
Well, I'm not rebuking. It's a question. I'm not rebuking.
But the question sounds like it sounds like it's a rebuke, because I've not finished presenting what I want to present.
Okay. Well, I apologize if it sounded that way. Go ahead.
Okay. Then we have Codex Sinaiticus, and he has it here in the Greek, and then he translated. Now let's focus on let's focus on the two times the word "and" appears. Paul was sent to nations and kings and the children of Israel. Right? This is what we have today as it is translated. This is the translation we have today in our English version. This is what we have. it says two ands, but also there are two different Greek words. The first is kai, which is the word for and. The second, however, is te. I'm gonna show this. I'm gonna show you this in the interlinear, which is the word for both. So now let's read this verse again. Again, I'm gonna show this in the interlinear that this word te, it's there twice. It's there twice in the codex. The interlinear is going to show you this, right? And they're going to explain to you when this word, and I'm going to show you also going back. I'm going to go back into a old Greek dictionary, an ancient Greek dictionary, and explain to us when you see two texts together, how you're supposed to translate it. This is an old Greek dictionary that deal with ancient Greek, because te comes back from an ancient Greek. It's going to tell you how you're supposed to translate this word when they appear both in the text, right? He's going to tell you what it is, and I can pull it up and show it to you as well. It says Acts 9:15. Both the prince said to him, "Go, for he is a vessel chosen by me, who is to bear my name before both the nations and kings of the children of Israel." Right? He's going to go forward to explain. So these are two of the earliest manuscripts that translators have been using since the 4th, 5th century to translate the New Testament from Greek to the English. These are two witnesses of a very important verse which describes why Paul was chosen and for what purpose, and ye must of the modern translation defer to the Textus Receptus. So what we have in the modern translation comes from the Textus Receptus manuscripts, which separates each of Paul's audience into three separate groups. The problem is that this verse is the fulfillment, which again, I don't really agree with this part here, that this is a fulfillment of Genesis chapter 35, verse 15, which God said unto Jacob, I am God Almighty, be fruitful and multiply, a nation and a company of nations shall proceed from you, and kings shall come from your body. Again, we can go into the once we get to the verse, we can go into the Greek. All right. Now, admittedly, it is tedious to go to the earliest Greek manuscripts in order to contrast them according to the verses in question. But after this has been brought to my attention, so I began to take every verse that I wanted to ensure was properly translated back into the original Greek manuscripts. And this is not the only instance where a pivotal verse is mistranslated while two or more witnesses of the proper text translation exist. Okay. Let me stop sharing this. Let me go into the interlinear and show you both the text and go into the ancient lexicon, which tell you how to translate when these two texts, Greek text appears in a verse, right? Give me 1 second. Let me pull up the interlinear here, and it's going to show you how the verse actually looks in Greek. 1 second.
Oh, hold on.
Okay, here we go. Interlinear. Okay. Greek interlinear. Coming up right now. I'm going to go to Acts 9:15. Right, Acts. Uh, 9. Come down.
And while he's getting that, I just want y'all to understand too that he also, even with this, one has to say that verse Acts 9:15, the way we're reading it in the KJV, is saying that Paul is going to Gentiles. Now his stance is that it's a mistranslation, and the verse don't really say that. For all those who subscribe to the KJV or subscribe to most of the text, most of these translations, one has to admit that verse, or he even has to admit that this verse is saying that Paul is going to the Gentiles. But his stance is that this is a mistranslation, and this is what he's showing here.
I first showed that the word Gentile is speaking of someone of the same your same family, nation, and people. Paul is being sent. Paul is being sent to his people from his own family, his own nation, and people who he's been sent to, according to that original word that comes from the Latin gentilis. That's who he's being sent to. Because Paul himself is a dispersed abroad Israelite. He was not born in Jerusalem. He was born outside of the land. So it makes sense that the Messiah would send a dispersed abroad Israelite to dispersed abroad Israelites. It's only common sense. It makes complete sense. It lines right up. So are you sharing this?
Oh no, I'm not.
The Greek. Okay. Let me know when you're sharing it.
You speak Greek?
No, I don't speak Greek.
You don't speak Greek?
No.
Can you parse out Greek? Can you speak the alphabet in Greek?
A little bit. A little bit.
Do you think that it's wise for you to teach Greek if you don't? But I'm gonna let you do your thing. Go ahead, do your thing.
I'm not teaching. I'm resorting to lexicons by scholars who deal
It's
with
a
the ancient
lexicon.
Greek. No, not this. I'm going to the lexicon in a minute. I want to show you the verse in the interlinear how it actually looks, and then I'm going to go into the lexicon, the ancient lexicon that deal with the ancient Hebrew. They're not Hebrew, excuse me. The ancient
You're gonna
Greek
have to zoom that in too.
And tell you, right? So we hear in Acts chapter 9, verse 15. This is where we at. All right. And this is the part right here that we need to get to understand, right? So we see the word te here. This is the word te right here.
Right.
It's here te. Then we see the word kai again here, kai. Then when you come down again, we see the word te again here. So it's in the Greek twice. Right here. So it's te, kai, basilios, hovis, te again, Israel. According to how the Greek is saying. All right. Now let me go to this ancient.
Now wait. What te? See, under there it says that word can be also, and, both, even, then, whether. What word are you using for that te, and what word are you using for this te? Because I can still say, oh well, and Israel. All right.
No, I get you.
Because Israel.
That's the reason why. I'm not doing that. What I'm doing, I'm relying on the expert to tell me how you translate this when both of them comes together. Right?
Well, you'll have to establish that who's the expert. That's why I was asking you for the source, because you haven't established that Reddit article or that Reddit post. That's almost like a Facebook post. That Reddit post is an actual expert. That's why I was asking you about the source of where who is this person that's giving us this information, that's saying that this Acts 9:15 has been mistranslated for 2,000 years.
Well, again, I showed you I showed you two codexes that translate the word differently than we have it today in the English.
No. What you showed me was the codexes, right? And then that person who wrote the article, he translated the codex. That person is translating it. That's like me. I put the Codex Sinaiticus up there, the verse, and then I know Greek, and so I start translating it, and I give you my translation of what I think it is. Now, it's cool to do that if I have the pedigree, but if I'm just Phineas and I can, all I know doing the alpha and beta and delta, and I could barely speak the alphabet. I can't be doing that, and that's why I was just asking for a source. If you had one, if you don't, it's cool. But we gotta be careful with gleaning that information off of there. Because I looked on the internet, that's the first article that pops up on that mistranslation. That's really the only article that pops up for a mistranslation for Acts 9:15 was a Reddit post.
All right. I'm sharing my screen now. Can you pull that up?
All right. So you going to AI to tell us who wrote the Reddit post?
No, I'm just simply going in and show you that
Oh,
the
into the
Greek
Tay. The
participle,
Tay. You talking about the Tay
the
usage?
Tay,
Okay. All right.
yeah, I'm dealing with the
Okay.
Tay, and the Greek participle Tay is it said it is discussed in the Lindell and Scott Greek English lexicon. This lexicon goes back, I think, to the trying to remember what it says. This goes back to, I think, to the 1800s. This is a very prestigious. Most people don't know about this lexicon here. This Lindell and Scott Greek lexicon. Most people don't know about this
Right.
lexicon here, and this entry in and this it speaks to the ancient Greek and this word te right here.
Got you.
To the lexicon describes te as an eclectic participle with two main usage. It says a
Now,
as a
what's the
as
eclectic participle? What is that?
it's going to explain down. See, I'm not trying to explain. I'm gonna let the
You
expert
gotta
who said
explain your source, brother. You can't
say
feed us. You
again.
don't know what the eclectic part is. The lexicon describes the Tay. The Tay is an eclectic particle. I don't know what that. You got man. I'm a not. I don't know nothing about this, man.
Brother.
But it's
It
saying
says
that the Tay is an eclectic particle. I'm just asking you, what is an eclectic particle?
brother. It's the lexicon describes the te as an eclectic participle with two main usage. I'm gonna let the lexicon tell you. I'm gonna just read it. You can believe what the lexicon says or not, but I'm gonna let the lexicon tell you what it is saying about it. You want me to do
So
that or
you
not,
don't know what
bro?
eclectic particle is.
No, I know what I'm reading
Okay,
here. It says that it is.
yeah, let's go.
If I tell you what I think it is, you're gonna say I'm giving you my interpretation of it.
No, I can only take you what you telling me because I don't know. I can't say nothing back to you because I don't know at all. I don't know. I was asking if
Okay,
you knew to
do
tell
you
me to
want
give me the information.
my interpretation of it? Is that what you want?
No, if you don't know it, I don't just
I
don't
can
throw
tell you
nothing
what
out there.
I
You
think
you
what
could
I
have
think
googled
it's
it.
saying. I can tell
You had had
okay,
time to
bro.
Google it. But go ahead, make your point. I'll make your point with it. The Tay is how is the Tay
Listen, brother,
used?
bro, listen, we can stop doing all of this right now, and I can
Mm.
just from here go forward and tell you what I think from here going forward, and stop showing you
Well, you telling me
any kind
about the
of.
Tay. I just want to know. You can just make your point with the Tay. We done got
You asked
got
for
this
a
far
source,
with the
and
Tay.
I'm reading what the source says, and you asking me what you asking me what it is, and
I'm trying to see
I'm
if you
telling you.
understand the source. Do you understand what you're reading? That's why I'm
I
asking
understand
you
what I read.
that.
I didn't even get to read it.
Well, you read
I
a
didn't even
part
get
and I asked
to read
you,
it.
did you know what ecliptic particle is? And you didn't know. So you don't know thus far. But you finna just go read the source. If you just read this, just read it.
Brother, do you know what it is?
I told you I didn't know what it was. That's why I asked
Okay,
you.
so
Because I have no
why
idea
not?
what you're talking about. When you tell me, when you read
Why
a
not let
lexicon describes the Tay
why
as an
not let the
eclectic
lexicon
particle with
tell
two
us
main
what it's
uses.
saying then?
I'm sorry, go
Why not
ahead.
let the lexicon tell you what it's saying then?
Is it gonna tell me what ecliptic particle is?
Yes, can we read down?
Okay, go ahead.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I said, well, if you understand first, then you rebuke. Before we
Well, that
even
was
get
a
to
question
read
again. Knock. That's not a
that
rebuke.
part,
That's a question.
but you asking a question, I'm about to answer.
Yeah, yeah.
The lexicon described the te as an eclectic participle with two main usage. A as a conjunction.
Got you.
Te. This usage signifies both and connecting words, phrases, clauses, and sentences. When there's two of them here, te, it says this usage signifies both and connecting words, phrases, clauses, and sentences. It connects them together when you see two of them there.
Correct.
The first te serves the point forward to the second te.
Mm.
Example provided included here. We see in the Greek, and it translated both men and gods, and they give you a source from Homer's Iliad. B, further details on the second main use would be found within the full entry from the Te in the Lindell Scott lexicon, which I'm gonna pull it. I'm gonna pull it up, and we're gonna go right to the Te and let the lexicon go through it and show you. All right.
All right, I got a question.
It says no.
Which Te is it? Which use is it? Is it using the one from the lexicon you about to pull up, or is it using the one from the example with the both men and gods? With the first one was a conjunction, meaning conjunction words. So is it the Te? Is it going to be conjunction words which are used in Acts 9:15, or is it the second usage of this ecliptic particle?
Well, it's going to be the first, because that's why I went to the interlinear and show you that there's two Te there in the interlinear. So they're both there. So it's going to be the first one because two Te's are there, and he tells you when those two there's are there, what they signify.
They signify both and.
Yeah, it signifies both
men and gods.
Right. So it's it's connecting. When you see it there, it says it's connecting words.
Mm.
The words are connected, not separated. Where we have it in the English, it's separating. But these two texts are letting you know, no, it's not a separation with the phrase that's there. It's all connecting together. There is no three groups of people. There isn't Gentiles, kings, and the children of Israel. When the Te is there, you're saying it's connecting words, phrases, and clauses or sentences. It connects them together. It's one phrase together.
Gotcha.
So
now I want you to look at the examples. You look at the example provided. You see that the examples provided include the Greek for the both men and gods. You see where the Te is. The Te is before. I guess that's men, and then it's after men. So it's a Te, then the word, and then Te. You agree with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, it says Te, then the word, and then Te. So that's the usage that they're signifying. That Te you got to see that Te first, and then the word, and then Te right after that, and then the first Te serves at a point forward to the second Te. You agree with that?
Brother, are you teaching now, or am I presenting?
I'm just saying if you agree with what I see. You present the information, but I want to make sure that you're seeing that I'm seeing the same thing you're seeing there with the Te situation.
Yeah. Do you understand what this first part here means?
I fully understand it, and it's saying that Te there, it has to be connected to that word. That's why both men and gods. That Te is there. That's the first Te. That's the first Te, and it's gonna connect the second Te to this word here. But it's gonna be Te, 5 words, and then Te. It ain't gonna be just because it's Te it's 2 Te's inside of a verse. The Te has to be Te, then the word, and then the Te. That's the example that's being showed here. You agree with that?
No, brother, you're not understanding what I'm reading here. But it makes the question: then is men and God men and gods connected?
Both men and gods, yeah, they the same people. They the same thing. So right there, because the Te comes right after the men or the gods.
Okay, so men and gods are the same, correct? They're not different. They're not different group of entities, correct?
I'm talking about this example here. This example has nothing to do with the Bible. This is just a sentence they put together to give us example how the Te is used. This ain't scripture. But I'm trying to. This ain't ideology we're reading right here from this example.
You're questioning me, and it seems that you don't understand what's being said here. So I gotta understand. You
no, I do. I feel I do. I think we just disagree with it. That's why I wanted to ask the question here, because you're gonna get yourself in a little whirlwind.
in the
This
word,
example
I
that
don't
you
think you understand.
no.
So
Then you need to show me. I mean, this what you'll have to do. Let me show you what you need to do, and it's gonna be very simple. You show me another example of this te being ecliptic particle where the te ain't it's a te here in a word and then a te right after that. If you show me another example where the te is not it's the te blah 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 te the te then the word then the te. If you can show me another example where that's not the case, then I'm gonna throw that methodology out. But right now, the methodology that you're showing here from this source, you can't disagree with what I'm saying because it's right in our face. The te is there, and then the word comes after that, and then the te comes after that. And that's what's connecting this phrase or these sentences, and this is why there's some kind of special conjunction. This is the example that's provided. If you provide me another example where the te is not immediately after the word another te, then I throw that methodology out. But the only methodology I can provide or that I can conclude is the one that you presented me, which shows that the te is right here. There's some word right here, then the te, and then that's gonna start it, right? It says first, if the first te serves a point forward to the second te, and then the second te comes immediately after the word. So if you could show me another way that this being used, this is the only route I can go. Is that I have to see an example. Acts 9:15 should show us a te, and then kings, and then te. When you pull up the interlinear, you agree?
No, but I'm gonna let you go ahead, bro, because obviously I'm not presenting anymore. You're teaching now.
Bro, I'm teaching what you presenting.
No, you're not.
so is this not the example? Where does the te supposed to? So are you saying? Let me ask you this: are you saying that this is saying that the te can be anywhere, long as it's in the same verse? If it's two te's in a verse, you know, Greek don't even have periods in capital letters and spaces.
Brother, the question is, I asked you, is man and God connected?
Is men and God connected? Yes, it's connected right there because because of how the te operates. Well, we're trying to get down to the oh, go ahead.
Let me I'm asking a question because I'm trying you because I said you're saying one thing and this thing is saying something different.
So, no, it's not. What is it saying with that example right there?
So men are gods, correct?
It's saying both men and gods. Whatever, that's the statement here. All right, it's saying both men and gods. So whatever's happening is happening to both men and gods. Let's say I stabbed them. I stabbed both men and gods. But this is just an example. You can't tie ideology. You can't tie Psalms 82 to this. Like this is just an example here.
Okay, but
and this is from Homer.
Before
you said you know who Homer is? I think he was like a Caesar, wasn't he? You know who Homer is?
Homer was he's a Caesar, an emperor.
Yeah, emperor or something. Yeah. Emperor? Yeah, wasn't he? I'm asking.
Homer wasn't no emperor, brother.
Where was he?
He's a philosopher. He's a Greek philosopher, bro. He's not a he's Greek. He's not Roman.
Okay, my bad.
And hey, brother, if you don't know that, you just let me just rock out, bro. If you don't know that Homer isn't a philosopher, you think he's a Roman, you should just let me rock out, bro, because that is bad. Everyone know Homer ain't no emperor. That's crazy.
I didn't know that. I didn't know who Homer was.
That's why you should let me rock out, bro, because what you doing, you asking.
Well, I'm asking you questions, brother. You're not answering my questions.
I am answering.
And that's still, if he's a philosopher, this ain't Bible. It sounds like you're trying to ask me biblical questions about are men both are people? Are we men and gods? This is a philosopher. This ain't biblical. This ain't a biblical question.
Well, you're reading something written in this man language that he is an expert on. He's a Greek philosopher. He's an expert in his language, in Greek. We are dealing with the Greek language.
Do you understand that this is an example provided by his writing? They grabbed something from Homer's writing to use as an example of how tie works. This is not Homer explaining tie. This is not him explaining it. This is him. This is this source gleaning from one of his writings to use as an example to explain how the tie works.
Do you understand how he's using it?
My question is, I do understand. You saying I don't, but I understand that tie must go right here, that tie, and then that tie is coming right after the next word. That's what I understand. Now, you tell me the first tie serves a point forward to the second tie. What does that mean?
Brother, when you see, I'm gonna go right back to the beginning because you missing it. Like I said, it explains it to you. It says when you see te, it says this usage signifies both, and it has and. It goes on to say, it says connecting words, connecting phrases, connecting clauses or sentences. It connects them together. It don't separate them.
Now, let me show you this.
Point? Do you understand that point?
I understand exactly what he just said. The more you read it, the more I understand it. It says "tay" right here, right? It says "tay," then it says "tay," right? It don't say that. It don't say "tay," "tay." It says that, right? Then it says both and. You agree with that? Okay. Now that's the way it works. Now let's look down to the example again. You see the both and. That's the first tay is the both. The second tay is the and. We have here for the example both men and. The dot is the men. So tay, men, tay. Both men and gods. Both men for the dot. And then you got the tay coming after that. That's what I've been saying the whole time. But you're telling me that I'm wrong. So is it up here laying it out for you? Tay, tay. Both dot and. Both men and.
My question to you is, how is men and gods connected?
Because you have two tays. You have a tay before men and a tay after men. That's the rule.
That's
the rule that you're reading there.
Brother,
you got a tay before the men and a tay after the men.
Does the word "and" separates men from God?
No, it doesn't separate them. It doesn't separate them from whatever's happening here. Like, if you got to understand what's happening here, both men, something's going on with both men and gods. But whatever it is before both men and gods, it's happening to both of them. So whatever
the word "and" don't separate man from God.
Yeah, it does. But the reason they're using this tay is that it's connecting them to the same condition. So let's say where the world went in starvation, both men and gods.
You're adding that. What condition does it say that here? What condition you talking about? It says here. What
it doesn't say that here, but this is not a complete sentence. This ain't a complete sentence. Both men and gods. That ain't a complete sentence, sir.
That's what I'm saying. You don't understand what's being said here.
Okay, so what's being said there? What's being said there?
You don't understand what's being said here.
What's being said? Both men and gods. What's being said there?
What's being said here to you is that men and gods, they're same. They're the same. There's separation between them. They're the same. That's what it says. That's why it says connecting words and phrases and clauses or sentences. It is not it's not separating the classes. That's the first conjunction I'm reading. Hey.
I still don't see no difference in the point. You see both men and gods. Even if you say, okay, both men and gods. They're the same. You're saying they're the same. You still have the methodology there that's saying that the te has to come before the word and after the word.
Let me move on.
And so if you could show me that in Acts 9:15, then you then you got the point. You show me the te in the word there, and then the te coming right after that word, like it said up in that example. You got a point. If you don't see that, then you need to throw everything away we just been talking about the last 30 minutes. Hold on. Oh, okay. I thought you was presenting something.
I am going to present something. I want to go to the lexicon so we can get it. Is he not? All right, I'm presenting. Can you show that?
I see it.
I need to blow it up.
Yeah, you're gonna have to blow it up. That's super small.
Let me blow it up. Yo, fuck, can I get? How much you gonna let me go? Is that good, or you want me to go a little bit more?
That's good for me. I don't know about the chat, but just go ahead. Go ahead. It should be good.
Let me see, can I go one more? All right.
All right.
As we see here, this is the lexicon. This is the Henry George Lindell Robert Scott, a Greek English lexicon. This is the source. All right. And we at the te. Here's the te right here. Okay. This is what it's speaking of here. It said the same thing here as we just read that was online. Right? It's an eclectic participle with two main usage, right? A as a conjunction. Te, te, both. It can be translated as both and. It says joining single words, phrases, and clauses or sentences. The first te merely points forward to the second. Let me highlight this part here. The first one merely points forward to the second one. This is in the lexicon.
What does that mean?
The first one is merely pointing to the next one. It means that the next te is going to give you the clause that how it connects to the first one. They are connected. The first one is pointing you that, listen, there is something here that you need to go ahead and bring together with this phrase. We are not speaking of separating anything. I'm letting you know, the first one letting you know, I'm pointing you that the next words ahead, these are all inclusive together. They're the same. They're speaking of the same people. That's why I first want to show you that the word Gentile means people of the same race, nation, or people. So when the Messiah is saying in Acts 9:15, he's going to bear my name before the Gentiles, people of the same nation, race, and people, then that's the first taste there. Then it talks about kings and the children of Israel. What it is saying is that the kings and the children of Israel are the same as the first word Gentile. That's what it is saying in the ancient Greek. That Gentile, the first word there, it is saying that the words afterwards, the kings, they're Gentiles, and the children of Israel also, again, the dispersed abroad are Gentiles. That's how this word.
So the te is in front of Gentiles?
Yeah, when it said, because yes, no, te is in front of Gentiles.
Right, it's in front of Gentiles.
No, it's in. That's why I showed. No, I showed you in the interlinear. I can show it
You
to
didn't
you
do the
again.
interlinear yet. You haven't went to the interlinear yet.
I did go to the
Oh well,
interlinear.
yeah. Well, I'm sorry. You showed it from another. Yeah. Pull that other one up.
All right, let me stop sharing this one.
Pull that other one up. I wasn't even looking for it there, but
All right,
yeah, you
pull it
did
up
show
again.
it. You did show it with the thing up there, but yeah. Now that I have a
No problem.
methodology, I want to see if the methodology works.
I'll show it again. Okay, I'll show it again. No problem, brother. I'll show it again. No, not a problem.
And then when you're giving that definition for Gentiles, so you're saying there are no heathens even mentioned in the Bible.
No,
Are you taking that stance that
the Messiah
that Gentiles always means heathen? I mean, always means Israelites?
No, not all the time. I'm saying that who Paul was sent to, according to Acts 9:15, these people are all from the same nation of people. That's how originally the word Gentile was being used. And then the word.
But what's making it not be used the same way for the rest of them? What's making the Gentile not be the same use for the rest? Is it a different Gentile? Like what?
Well, again,
You gave a source that showed that Gentile. Go ahead.
It all comes down to how it's being used will determine if they are Israelites or non-Israelites.
Okay, so it doesn't go back to it originally. The original use got lost in the Latin.
It
really goes back to context.
The original use got lost today. They have twisted it. They have twisted it to say that it means a non-Israelite, which is incorrect.
Yeah, but it does. You just said it does mean a non-Israelite sometimes.
Yes, I said depending on how it is being used.
Yeah, so that's ultimately the methodology is depending on how it's being used.
No, but they say today that it's a non-Israelite. It can't be an Israelite according to what there's the definition today saying it can't be an Israelite, which is incorrect.
Well, we'll talk about that, but we'll go ahead. Ethnos is different than Gentile, but
I'm speaking of the word Gentile. They say that the definition today is saying that it cannot be an Israelite, which is incorrect.
Yeah, that's the definition. The definition of a Gentile. But that's the biblical definition of a Gentile. Now, what you look at is the ethnos, and that word there, ethnos, nation, and Gentile can be used for ethnos. But nation and people in Gentiles is three different. They really kind of three different words. There's three different. They kind of similar, but it's different words, and they're placed in there used for ethnos depending on the context. But we'll get into that.
What do you mean when you talk about the biblical definition of the word Gentile? What are you saying that is?
The biblical definition of a Gentile is a non-Israelite.
That is incorrect.
What
did
it say in the Zondervan?
That is incorrect because again, the word Gentile comes about in the 4th century when Jerome introduced it when he translated it into Latin. That word Gentile comes back from the Greek word ethnos, which goes back to the Hebrew word goy, and goy. Israelites are called goy in the Old Testament.
Israelites are called goy?
They are called goy in the Old Testament. That's where ethnos comes from. It comes from the Hebrew word goy.
So goy is for Israelites?
Goy is for Israelites and non-Israelites.
I don't know.
That's the usage of it in the Old Testament. It's used for Israelites and non-Israelites. But today they making it. The word goy translates into the Greek as ethnos and then into the Latin as gentilis.
So what would it translate into in the Old Testament? What would goy translate into in the Old Testament?
What you mean goy? Nations. It would be nations.
And so if this book is written to Israel and he talks about the nations, is it talking about Israel?
In certain contexts, yes.
But not if it's talking to Israel. If the audience is Israel, so it can say nations. Israel can be included when it says, I'm in control of all the nations. Then Israel is included in that, right? But if Israel is the audience, then and it says, I will destroy all nations for you, and then Israel's not in that. But nations, nations and peoples, like I say, it's one of those words that it has to be, and that's why I said we can get into it with the ethnos thing. But I just want to get done with this Acts 9:15 and move on. And then I can show you how these words are being used and being translated. Because Gentile ethnos ain't the only word that translate into Gentile. You understand that also, right? Huh?
I understand, but are you saying that the Hebrew word goy does not speak of Israelites?
No, I told you that goy, if you're saying that it only means nations, I have to look it up, but I know in the Old Testament that Israelites aren't called heathens, they aren't called strangers, they ain't called Gentiles.
They're called heathens in the Old Testament.
No, they're not.
Yes,
They may be called, you're acting like the heathens, or we've been described as that we're taking on certain things of the heathens. But it could be in there. I haven't seen it though. And then what would be that? What translates in? If you're saying goy only translates to nations, what translates into heathen?
In English, what
goy? What's the word for heathen in Hebrew?
They translate the word. It all goes back to goy. They translate the word.
Okay, now see, that's my point. So a heathen is a goy also, right?
Is what you're saying. They translate the word ethnos as Gentiles and heathens.
Okay, got you.
So that word
goes back. So when it's a heathen is different from nations and people. Ain't that a different word,
brother? So what Greek word translates into heathen?
I'm saying that I'm agreeing with you.
You're not agreeing,
but I don't think ethnos does though. I don't think ethnos does.
You want to look it up?
Yeah, let's look it up. We ain't gotta sit here and guess.
Yeah, I mean, you making statements. I don't think you know what you're saying.
Let's look it up here. But I do know that I think Helen also is translates into Gentile in John 7:39. But we just read I know we got heathen right here. It says Paul says he must go to the heathen.
You gonna let us all see it?
Hold on. View this tab. Oh man, hold on. Add to stage. Okay. Heathen. Okay, this is ethnos also.
That's what I said. I said they translated the word ethnos as Gentile and heathen. That's what I said.
Okay. No. You also said people and nations, correct?
No, I said the word yeah, the word ethnos can translate. It's a compound noun, and it translates as
it can be people and nations, right? And it can be heathen. Correct. Okay.
Translated as heathen. Yeah.
You say what now?
That said they translated as heathen, but the word ethnos is a compound noun which speaks of a race, people, or nation. It is not speaking to an individual.
It's used for Gentiles 93 times. It's used for nations 64 times. It's used for heathen 5 times. And it's used for people 2 times. So, and what I'm trying to explain to you is that a heathen and people are 2 different. They're different words. Nation is another word. Gentiles is another word. They're slightly the same, but depending on the context, the translator is putting these words in there. Depending on the context, they're using nation. Depending on the context, they're using heathen. Like in the verse that we're seeing here, hold on, let me go back one more. It says, when Cephas and John, seen to be pillars, perceived the grace that was given unto me, they gave to me Barnabas the right hand of fellowship, that we should go unto the heathen, and they unto the circumcision. Now, he could have put Gentiles there, but he already put Gentiles. He used Gentiles in verse 8. And then he used verse uncircumcision in verse 7. What's the word he used in verse 8? Let's look at that. He used ethnos again. Yep. He used ethnos again in verse 8. So verse 8 and 9 have ethnos in it. One is used for Gentiles and one is used for heathen. And more of a point, maybe the translators, because he said heathen here, because he said uncircumcision, I guess it's just not to be, he just saying the same thing over. They put in heathen. They translated it into heathen. But they similar, but they different words. Now, would it have been okay that he said, I'm going to the nations? Would that have been a better translation?
It's the same Greek word that they are putting their spin on.
They're putting their translation because they have to bring it into English. They have to bring it into to where we understand it.
Why not translate it consistently the same way? If it's the same word.
Because translations don't work like that. Because some of these translations don't have these words for these. They don't have words for our different explanations.
But you understand what I'm
saying?
They
don't have multiple. All they have is ethnos.
But are you missing what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying. Why not just?
What am I saying?
Why not just put people and nation everywhere? Why not just put nation? Because it doesn't flow with the English. Now we can look at a more literal translation, and you can go look at a more literal translation, and see and
why wouldn't it flow with the translation? I don't understand what you're saying. Why would it flow with the translation?
Why would they what? I'm sorry.
Why wouldn't it flow with the translation? I'm trying to say you're making a statement or a claim that it wouldn't flow.
Because it's just like if you're familiar with any language, some languages they just have to put in English. Some languages they just have to say the word in English because they don't have a word for it. They just don't have a word to explain it. But we know what it is. But if we're reading this, let me go here.
That doesn't make any sense. We're talking about English. We have a word in English. What are you saying? You're talking about
have English, the word. Oh no. Oh, you saying why are they using different words here?
Why not consistently with one English word?
No, because they're not writing English. They're translating Greek. So they're translating Greek. So like even Hebrew don't have no implying words. So it's
brother, we're not talking about Hebrew. Brother, translating the word into English. Why not use the same English word for the same Greek word?
Because that Greek word is there, and it means we have different English words for that. So ethnos, it has a certain range to it, and we have 5 or 6 words that are included within the range of ethnos. And that's with every word here. That ain't just with ethnos. That's with every word here. Hold on. That's with every word here.
You're taking a Greek word, and then you're gonna use a word that comes from Latin, because Gentile originated from Latin, not from Greek. So I'm taking a Greek word and I'm going to a Latin word to do it. Then in other cases, I'm taking this Greek word and then bringing it into English as heathen. But in other places, I'm going to a different language in Latin.
Well, what is it in Greek? What did they translate it in Greek? I thought this was written in Greek.
I'm saying they're taking the Greek word in certain places, then go to the Latin gentilis for Gentile.
What is the Greek word?
Gentilis.
Okay, and then what is the Latin?
Gentilis is the Latin.
Then what is the Greek?
Ethnos.
Okay, so ethnos is the Greek. Okay, I got you.
You don't know that?
Got you. Yeah. I bugged out for a little second there.
This, brother? I don't think you understand what's happening.
I bugged out for a little second there. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So
all
right.
Okay.
But the Gentile is English. I don't even know it's translated into English. That's why I was going back and forth. You trying to make a point of it being right. You're trying to make the point of it being it has a Latin origin, but this Gentile we have right now that we're dealing with right now is English and how we use it in English. This is not a Latin Gentile. This is an American. This is an English speaking Gentile. This is English Gentile. All of this is English. Everything,
brother, is being used incorrectly in the English. You need to use the original definition of the language the word comes from.
No, I don't. Because it's being translated into English.
Word.
No, I don't. It's being
from the original word.
They been did it. They change the definitions of words all the time in the English. We're dealing with English.
That's the problem. That's why you have false doctrines.
Well, that's why you have revised versions, because, at one point up was down and down was up. But, right now this text is being translated into English. Everything that's on my screen right now. Well, not right now. But you get everything that's being explained is for English. It's for English speaking people. So that Gentile right there, that's an English version of Gentile. That's not the gentilia that it originally came from. It's not that.
That word.
And then you read in that definition in the Latin, this Gentile is not that Latin. It's not the Latin Gentile. This is the Gentiles in English.
That's where the word comes from. But how are you gonna change the definition of the word in the original language? How are you gonna do that?
Because this is their language, and this is how they use it. And this is how they speak. That's how that works.
They did not use the word the way we use it today. That's the problem I'm trying to point out to you.
The point is how did the translators use it? You're saying that the translators, if they're using it on how they understood it, they're putting Gentile in the way they understood it, not the way whether you feel it's wrong or right. They put it in the way they understood it. They didn't put it in.
They're using it incorrectly though. That's the problem.
No. And if we hold on to that methodology and you're saying they're using it incorrectly, then you'll have to say that Gentiles are not even in here, that other nations aren't even in the New Testament at all.
The word Gentile came into the text in the 4th century. It wasn't even part of the text before then. It's introduced to the text by Jerome when he translated ethnos into gentilis. If we go before the 4th century, there is no Gentile.
Then what were they?
Ethnos is the word that's there, which goes back to the Hebrew word goy.
And what does that mean?
Nations.
Does it mean heathen? Does it mean other nations?
It means.
Does it mean other nations?
Yes, it can apply to other nations. Yes, brother.
Okay. So
what I'm saying today they're misleading people and saying that this word
does the genitilius that you used, does that genitilius in Latin that definition you pulled up, did that definition mean other nations? Did it mean heathen?
No, sir.
No. Okay, but ethnos does mean heathen.
People of the same race, family, or nation. It's speaking of the same people. When you use that word,
right?
When you use that word, you're not talking about a different nation. You're talking about the same nation of people.
Right. You're right. And then in the Bible, you're saying that the genitilius or the ethnos does mean other nations.
No. I said that the word ethnos translates to either it's a compound noun and it means race, nation, or people. What the word translates to. The same from the word goy, from the
And
Hebrew.
can it mean the other? Can it mean heathen? Can it mean the other nation?
It can mean yeah, depending how you can use it. Yeah,
Now
like I
it was
said.
translated. Yes, you said yes. It was translated. It was transliterated into in Latin as genitalius, right?
Huh.
That same word. And then you told me that genitalius, that Latin definition that you read, it doesn't apply to Gentiles. It doesn't apply to heathen.
No,
So
I said the word means of the same race, family, or nation.
right. And that'll be Israelites, correct?
No, it depends how if I told you, right? If I told you I'm gonna send you to Gentiles, what I'm telling you is I'm sending you to your own family, race, or nation, is what I'm telling you. That's originally how the word is being used. I'm not telling you I'm gonna send you to someone not your nation. I'm telling I'm sending one to your nation. I'm sending you to when I use the word gentilis.
Where did you get the word "your" from?
What?
Where would you get the word "your" from? If
I'm
ethnos just means nations, he says, I'm sending you to nations.
I'm giving you I'm giving you the example of the word when someone say I'm gonna
Okay.
send you to Gentiles. What I'm saying to you, I'm sending you to your own nation.
All right. Well, let's go to the Acts 9:15, and then you just show me what you're trying to show me with that, and then we can go on, man.
That's what I'm telling you. When Acts 15 is saying the Messiah is sending Paul to Gentiles, he's telling you, I'm sending you to your own nation. That's originally
Okay.
what the word meant. That's what he's doing. He's not sending him to non-Israelites.
And then it says, I'm sending you to the kings. Who are the kings?
The kings of the children of Israel. No,
Israel had
word
kings.
the word
Paul
has
was
different
going to
meaning.
Israelite kings.
No, the word has different meaning. They put kings there, but it's leaders. It should be translated as leaders because there is no kings of Israel at this time. So the word Paul is not going to know kings of the children of Israel. That would make no sense. The word can't translate as that.
No, it don't make
And
no
listen,
sense because you trying to make them go to Israelite. That's why.
okay, let's do this
It
then.
don't make
Okay,
no sense
so
because you trying to make them. I'm looking at we gonna I got it pulled up here.
brother.
It
So
says, but the
listen,
Lord said unto him,
if
go thy way, for he is a chosen vessel unto me to bear my name before the Gentiles and the kings and the children of Israel.
brother, tell me what would happen if Paul go to a Gentile king and tell them that the
He
real
went to a
king.
king.
This is what I'm saying to you. If you let's make sense of what you're saying. If Paul go to a Gentile king and tell him the real king is our Messiah from the nation of Israel, he is King of Kings, Lord of Lords, and you, King, gotta bow down to my king. What would a king do to Paul if he tell them that?
You dealing with you dealing with some hypotheticals, but we do know Paul went to a king.
That's not
We know that he
hypothetical
went to
because
that he
it's
sat before Rome.
not hypothetical.
We know that
That's
he
not
sat before
hypothetical,
Agrippa,
brother.
and he
We
said,
can
"Man,
read
you
it.
almost convinced me." He gave it to Agrippa. He said, "Man, you almost convinced me to be a Christian."
What? Brother,
So
Agrippa cannot convert. He will die. The Roman law said you can't do that.
man, Edom already converted.
The minute he
He
does it,
already
he's dead.
converted. Herod converted. You
He
know
doesn't
Herod
live.
nationality?
He said Edomite.
He's an Edomite, but he's the king of Israel. He got converted.
He ain't no king of Israel.
What you man?
The king
Hey
is
man.
Christ. Herod is your king, brother? Is
No, I'm
Herod your
saying he's the
king?
king in the text.
What are you
He was the
saying
king of
then?
Israel during the text.
No, he isn't. He was not the king of Israel, brother. The king of Israel is the Messiah.
Okay, brother.
Listen,
You kind of going
listen,
somewhere
brother.
else.
The Torah says God got to pick your king, and it has to be of your
So
brethren.
who was the kings
That's
of Israel?
Deuteronomy 7.
So Paul was being
Brother,
sent to Christ.
I can't. This is the
Paul was
problem,
being
bro.
sent to Christ.
Let me get in the same.
The kings of Israel.
It isn't kings, brother. There is no kings of Israel at this time. The word they
You just
mistranslated
told
the
me it
word
was
is leaders.
Christ. Oh,
I
okay, it's
did told you
leaders.
the
Oh,
king
you
of
said
Israel is
okay.
Christ, is it not?
No, you said yeah. Okay,
Wow.
okay, it's leaders right there.
A non-Israelite cannot be king in Israel, brother, according to Torah. So I don't know what you're talking about. Herod is the king. It makes no sense, bro. Herod isn't the king of Israel.
Nah, you don't know the Maccabean history. You don't know that we conquered the Edomites and converted them.
You don't know Torah though. You don't know Torah then.
But when he get converted, what is he?
He's a convert. That's all he is.
Okay. Now let's deal with that Tay situation you was talking about.
Can't be king in Israel because of the Torah.
Let's deal with the Tay situation now, because you missing a lot here. Hold on, let me drop the link. You got a couple brothers want to get on. Huh?
I'm missing a lot here. That is crazy to say I'm missing a lot here. That is really crazy. You don't even understand the word Gentiles. You don't understand the word ethnos. You don't understand the word goy, and I'm missing it. That's crazy to even say that.
I do understand. I do understand.
Of Israel too, which is crazy.
You just sat here and made the translation say it don't say kings, it says leader. Like, come on, man.
Brother, who
and you stumbling on Acts 9:15? Like, I don't even have that in the slides.
Who were the kings of Israel at this time when Christ converted Paul? Who were they?
The kings of Israel? It was Agrippa.
At that time, yes. Who were they?
I just told you.
Who?
It was Agrippa.
Agrippa is the king of Israel at that time?
Yeah. What is his name? King Agrippa? Or it was supposed to be leader there? It's supposed to be leader there? Or it say King Agrippa?
That is crazy to even say that, bro. That's even wild, even you to say that Agrippa is the king of Israel when, wow. When the Torah says that cannot happen, and we have three wise men that came to Herod and told Herod, where is the king of the Jews at? They told him to his face that you ain't the king of the Jews. They told him, where the king of the Jews at? These three wise men told that to Herod to his face. They even know that he ain't the king of the Jews. I don't know what book you're reading, bro. I don't think you understand the Bible, Alk. You probably got to start over, brother.
We ain't got to get to the ad-homs. But I'm going to show you this, and then I'm going to let somebody else come up. And you stay on, and we'll navigate this thing. Acts 26:19, whereupon, O King Agrippa, I was not disobedient unto the heavenly vision. And Paul calling him King Agrippa. Anyway, let me see. Brother Dave want to come on. Let's see what he want to talk about. But yeah, that was that. If you can agree with the text or disagree with the text or say it's supposed to be leader right there. But it's that's kind of clear to me. And I still ain't got to that Tay situation you was trying to bring up from this Reddit article that you pulled up.
You told me you'll let me rock out, but you won't let me rock out, bro. So that's the situation. You said I'm gonna let you rock out, but you didn't let me do that.
Yeah, because this ain't even on the slides. Like, I thought you was gonna answer the questions from the slides. And then you bring in information.
You kept stopping me. You kept stopping me and taking me somewhere else.
Well, no, we didn't even pull the slides up. We've been at Acts 9:15 the whole time. That ain't in. I don't think I have that in the slides. But
9:15 of Gentiles, which is in the slides.
Okay, you said okay. But you can address this taste situation. I got the linear pulled up. And you say the Tay is in here. I see the and there. I see the Tay there. And then Is there another Tay here?
They don't translate, they don't have that first Tay that's there. There's a Tay before Kai. Before Kai, there's a Tay there. I showed you in interlinear. It's Tay, Kai, Basilios, Tay. Um,
So the Tay is where the Kai is, or before the Ty?
Before the Kai, there is a Tay there.
Okay, there's a Tay here.
They're not translating that Tay. That's why I went into
Well, that's why I asked you to pull yours up. Pull your version up.
what version
So
up?
if maybe I could just read from Bauer, Denker, Ardent, and Gingrich, a Greek English lexicon of the New Testament and other early Christian literature, third edition, it says, connecting concepts usually of the same kind or corresponding as opposites. So it can be a series of things that are in some way connected, either of the same kind or of opposites. And so what we have here in this instance is a list, a series that Paul is to bear the name of Jesus before. It in no way suggests that they are the same group. It's just giving these in a series, variations of take high, take high, take high, tie, or sorry, take high, take high, kai appear throughout the New Testament. And um, every context is a little bit different, but there's no basis just based upon the terminology itself to somehow say that this means that they're connected in some way or the same group or anything like that. In fact, even if we take kings as leaders, it wouldn't even make sense because the Gentiles and the sons of Israel wouldn't all be kings, which would be the result from what seems to be, from what I'm hearing anyway, if I'm understanding correctly, the argument.
Well, what you're saying is incorrect because of the word gentilis that's there first presented. The
So,
first Tay. Let me finish, but I'll let you talk just now.
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
The first Tay, as it says there in the lexicon, points to the second one. That's what it says. So the word gentilis there, which means of the same family, nation, or race, then the Tay after that is pointing you to the next one, which connect those other two groups there, kings and Israel, together from the same nation, race, and people. The word gentilis proves you wrong.
It doesn't. So you didn't hear what I just said. So the connection between them is the name of Jesus being born to them. I'll read again. This is the latest scholarship. It's a Greek English lexicon of the New Testament and other early Christian literature, third edition. It says connecting concept, usually of the same kind or corresponding as opposites. Now, in terms of gentilis, you have gone into what is known as a root fallacy because you're trying, it seems to me, to connect gentilis to the English word Gentile because it is derived from that. The fallacy is demonstrated when you look at the English word nice, which is derived from the Latin word nicius, nicius, and the nicius means ignorant, whereas nice in English means like a kind person. So the use of the term has changed over time. When we're translating ethne as Gentiles, we're doing it with our modern English usage of it, not the root usage based in Latin. Just like when we say nice, we don't use it based upon the root in Latin.
Okay, so clearly you heard what it said just now, that the word Gentile goes back to gentilis, which originally meant someone from the same race, family, or nation. Then he brought up a different Greek word completely and
No, I
he tried
didn't.
to make a point. A different Greek word. When we're speaking
I,
about one Greek word, he's talking about
what
a
Greek word did
different
I
Greek
bring up?
word. Brother, can you stop
You,
interrupting, bro?
I didn't do what you said. I did
Can
not
you?
bring
I
up
didn't.
another Greek word.
My bad. You brought up a different. You brought up a different word when you use the word for nice. We're not
Yes.
speaking about a different. We're speaking about one. We're speaking about one word and how the word was being defined when it was introduced into the text by Jerome. When he brought it into the text, Jerome understood it as people from the same race, nation, or people. He's the one introducing it, and that's how he understood it.
And do you see the
Today, that's
problem
not the
though?
understanding of it, and that's why it's incorrect.
It's not, because it's a plural. And as a plural, it is now multiple races or peoples. And so it is the multiple that is the key. It is not just one, that is Israel. In fact, the sons of Israel are distinct from the Gentiles in this text, just like they're not all leaders. That wouldn't even make sense. And to the point that was being brought out earlier, it is foreign kings that Paul goes on to bear the name of Jesus in front of, as we see as the book of Acts progresses. But it doesn't change that you have a plurality of families, races that are involved. So when if you're going back to Jerome as the translation, fine. But you also don't understand the development of ethne that occurred over time. In fact, if I go here, I'm going to just type in ethne or ethnos, and I'm going to flip over to the exegetical dictionary of the New Testament. And I'll read for you something it says here. It says right in number 3, the use of ethnos or ta ethne in the New Testament is primarily determined by Jewish usage, which is prepared for in the Old Testament in the post-exilic period. In the New Testament period, the terminological distinction is firmly fixed so that Am designates the people of God and Goyim normally designates the peoples, i.e., mankind outside Israel, the Gentiles. Later rabbinic usage even uses the singular goy for individual non-Jews. And so this is the development, is specifically in that post-exilic period that we see happening, where the plural is being used for people outside of the people of God. And that is clearly expressed throughout the New Testament, where the goyim, the ethne, are regularly used as a term that expressly defines and distinguishes non-Israelites.
Again, all that he talking, he doesn't understand what he just said just now, because what he did was he says that it is defined by basically the Jewish rabbinic sect.
That's not what
It's
I
defined
said.
by them. And
No,
can you
you
stop
you didn't
interrupting,
listen
bro?
again. Well, that's not what I said though. It's not what I
Can you
read.
wait? Can you wait till I finish the then correct me? At least can you at least do
Okay,
that?
sure, absolutely.
I ain't even worried about it. You know, it ain't even about anyway. Whatever it is,
All right. Well,
he brings up a Latin. He said that they are changing. They are changing the definition of the word, and he brings up the Latin word gentilis, which is translated into Gentile. But he's moving away from the original meaning of the word. Is what he's doing. And the word is talking about this people of the same nation, race, or family, is what the word is speaking of. And again, when we look at the text itself, when Paul was coming up to Jerusalem and he came to James, he says that the Israelites who believes, he said they are informed of thee that you teach all the Jews who are among the Gentiles. The Israelites in Jerusalem knew who Paul was going to. He went to Jews amongst the Gentiles. It clearly says in it there. When we read the book of Peter, First Peter, he opens up and he talks about strangers in these different lands. But we know that that's speaking of the diaspora. Later on in the writing, he brings up Paul and he says, as our beloved brother Paul has written unto you. The beginning of Peter tells us that who he was writing to was dispersed abroad Israelites from these different lands. Then he clarifies and says, Paul was writing to you. That's what he says right there in his own writing. So we know from two places in the text who Paul went to and who Paul wrote to, according to the apostle Peter. He did not go to no non-Israelites according to those two witnesses there. The Jews in Jerusalem knew it, and Peter himself knew it.
Can I respond now?
Can I ask you a question? And then I just, so we can get off of, this mistranslation off of Acts 9:15. Just give your transliteration of what you feel it says, and then I want to ask you, what is a Greek?
My understanding of it, according to the Lindell lexicon, how it's saying that those two texts are used, the one pointing forward to the other one, it is that the first word Gentile, which from the same nation, race, or people, that the other two phrases there, where it's translated as Basilios, kings, and Israel and Israeli, that these are the same people that are classified as Gentiles because they're all from the same nation, race, and people.
Yeah, I'm just saying, just read it out for me. Like, but the Lord said unto him, Go thy way, for the chosen vessel for you. He is a chosen vessel to bear my name to the Israelites, the Israelite leaders, and the children of Israel. Is that what you're saying? Oh, but I'd rather you say it in your words.
For he's a chosen vessel unto me to bear my name before Gentiles, people of the same nation, race, and people, kings, of the children of Israel. I have a I didn't get to it. I have a commentary from a believer in I think he's in the 3rd century, and he's quoting Acts 9:15, and he says in his quotation of it, it says not and but of the children of Israel there in his quotation. I didn't get a chance to get to his quotation of it, that when he quotes Acts 15, it's clearly his Acts 15 read differently when he quoted it there, and also the two codex, Sinaiticus and Vaticanus, also reads different than what this says here.
Right. According to because that was a Riddick order. We don't know who wrote that. And when you're doing something, in my opinion, when you're coming at the text and you're saying, well, the translators mistranslated it, that's a big task. That's a daunting task, especially being with so many different translations. You're saying 1,000 translations got it wrong. You got to come with some heavy evidence, and you really need to know the text too, man. You kind of gotta. And I'm not saying know the text. I mean, like, know a little Greek. Just some basic Greek or some basic Hebrew, because you're going after 2,000 years of scholarship. And not saying that they got everything right. I'm just saying that it's a daunting task, and it's going to need, for me, it's going to need a good heavy instance of information for me to be convinced on it. But we'll leave it there. We got to squash the 9. We got to move on from the 9:15. I'm sure Dave has a plethora of information, and sure you have a plethora.
Yeah,
Of
I'm actually looking at
examples.
a scan of Sinaiticus right now. I have it transcribed in text, and it doesn't look any difference in that. But I'm looking at the text. It's Te Kai, Basilion. It's hard to read, and when it's because all the words are jumbled together.
Right,
No,
that's what I was saying earlier.
yeah. So, but no,
it's
Sinaiticus reads the same as the critical text. So, like you look at UBS 5 and A2728. So it's going to be a little bit different than the Byzantine text or the Textus Receptus. But that's basically, if you look at like the New American Standard Bible or ESV or whatever, all those follow the critical texts, and those all read the same as Sinaiticus.
right, but he had to his credit, he had, like I said, I was asking him for the source for the Riddick, but it seems that somebody examine the text and may have had some, some knowledge in Greek, and they translated it, and their translation is different, but you can't. And I was trying to tell him, like, you can't just vouch for anything that you, especially on public forums like that, unless you know the source of who is that translator and see his credentials. um you can't just eat. I could have put that up there, and I have no clue about translating no Greek.
Yeah.
um
Well,
but
they say a little Greek is a dangerous thing, and that is knowing a little bit can often hurt you more than not knowing any. And I can tell you from my own experience in studying Greek that it's caught me a few times where it's like, oh no, I was off base on those things. And so yeah, you definitely have to be extremely careful.
Absolutely. Did you have anything else, brother, that you wanted to go besides the Acts 9:15? I did want you to, if you had something different, because okay, you got F notes, you got the situation with F notes, but how did you feel about Greek? The word Greek.
Can you go to because I was going to actually start. I was actually going to start in the Old Testament and progress and show you how in the Old Testament God separated His people from all people on the earth. This goes back to the Old Testament. God Himself does this from the beginning of the earth. The prophecy that comes from Balaam says that the Israelites are going to be alone and not reckoned among the nations. This is a prophecy that comes from Balaam when the Spirit came upon him. This goes back to the Old Testament, and I was going to transition and bring it into um, the New Testament and start showing the verses there where um, it's clearly pointing that the Messiah himself said he was only sent to the nation of Israel himself. And then go on and then continue to show that who he sent his apostles to were the same people as he commanded them to go to in Matthew chapter 10, verse 5 and 6, and testimonies from the Israelites in Jerusalem, testimony from Peter as I brought out, confirmed the exact same thing that's who they went to. And even Luke tells you in Acts chapter 11 that was preaching the word to Jews only after Stephen got killed, which it wouldn't make any sense. Is that if Christ gave them a commission right before he went up back to the Father, he told them to go to everybody, but then once the high priest and his people killed Stephen, they say to themselves, you know what? We're going to stop going to Gentiles now. We're only going to go to Israelites. So they're going to penalize the Gentile, the non-Israelites, because Israelites killed another Israelites, which does not make any sense for them to penalize the other nations. If an Israelite killed an Israelite, to stop teaching to Israelites. It would only make sense that from the beginning they were only teaching to Jews, and even after Stephen died, they continue to still to preach only to Jews, as the text says.
Yeah, but really what I'm asking you is, do you have the same kind of breakdown for Greek as you do for Gentilius? Do you have the Latin word and it's being used differently? And what is the
Well, I did.
what are you
We can
doing
go.
for
We can
Helen?
go.
What are you doing for that transliteration into Greek,
We can
where
go
there's
to the
no
usage
Jew
of the
nor
word.
Greek?
We can go to the usage of the word. Can you get Acts 14:1?
Yeah. Hold on one second.
Okay, in Acts chapter. Now I want to
Oh,
read the
I'm sorry.
verse.
I wanted to go straight to you just want to read the verse, okay? And it came to pass in Iconium that they went both
Acts
together in the
14:1 says,
synagogue of the Jews, and so spake that a great multitude both of Jews
"Yeah,
and also of the Greeks believed.
yes." We see
You
right
want me to keep
here,
reading?
when Paul touched down in Iconium, he goes. No, I got it. I'm explaining what verse 1 is saying here. Again,
Okay.
anybody can chime in after I am and then say whatever they need to
No,
say.
I
It's
got
not
you.
a problem. You know what I'm saying? It's not a dictatorship where someone else believe it the way I see it or understand it the way I understand it. It's not a problem. I'm not against anyone disagreeing, because your right is to disagree. If you disagree, it's not a problem. My thing is to just let's be respectful. You ain't got to cut nobody off to bring your point out. When I'm done, you can bring your point out. It's not a problem. You know what I'm saying? Again, I'm not forcing no one to see the way I see it, understand the way I understand. This is not what the Messiah said. If they don't believe you, not dust up your clothes and then go on to the next town. This ain't no, you have to believe how I see it. It ain't nothing like that. You know, everybody's own individual. You believe it the way you believe it. At the end, when Judgment Day, we are going to find out what it is. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. But let's be respectful, please. Acts 14:1, and it came to pass in Iconium that they went both together into the synagogue of the Jews and spake the word. They look at it at the Greek. It can also mean to preach. That a great multitude of Jews and also of Greeks believed. So nowhere in the verse 1 is it said that he exited the synagogue and went to speak to some Greeks outside. For these Greeks to have believed, they have had to have heard what Paul spoke inside of the synagogues. And we know that non-Israelites cannot come into synagogues. There was a partition even at the temple where they could not come into the temple. The partition separated them from coming into the temple, and they even the Israelites threw Paul out of the temple because they thought he had brought Greeks into the temple, and that if any Greeks came into the place, the text says that they would have defiled this holy place, so they couldn't have come in. So they threw him out because they thought he was probably defiled because he's hanging around Greeks. So this verse right here clearly letting you know that Greeks had to be in the synagogue when he spoke what he spoke for them to believe. So right here, this word here, if I'm mistaken, is the word Helen, and this is speaking of Israelites, because only Israelites can go into synagogues.
So that's not true that only Israelites could go into the synagogue. I'm not sure where you got that idea from. The temple, there was the wall of division in the temple. Non-Israelites could go in the temple too, but yes, they could only go to the soreg. Once they got to the soreg, if they went past it, they were going to be put to death. But in terms of the synagogue, no. It says in Acts 13:43. Now, when the meeting of the synagogue had broken up, many of the Jews and of the God-fearing proselytes followed Paul and Barnabas. These proselytes, as you go earlier into the chapter, the God-fearers, they had been as part of who Paul was talking to throughout the preceding context. So it was absolutely the case that foreigners could go into the synagogue. They would go there to learn about God.
And I agree with that. The synagogue is not Torah. You don't see the synagogue build synagogues in the Torah. It's something totally different. They ain't sacrificing at the Torah. The wall of partition, that was the temple. That was not the synagogues. And then we even have to look at the reasons the synagogues were even built, and you need to look into that history of why are they even building synagogues in all of these heathen nations. Why are the synagogues out there? And I'm surprised you didn't have the breakdown for Helen with the lexicon and the Latin breakdown as you had for Gentile. There you just tried to say, well, it was because context is what you used with that one. But again, we know historically too that heathen were in these synagogues. And there's other places we can definitely go to where we see Paul having, you got to say they synagogues when he's speaking about their poets and on doing on Mars Hill. I just wanted to read.
Can I say something?
Go ahead, brother.
The word Greek is not necessarily speaking of a Greek, so to speak. You have people that's we consider so-called black people that are referred to as Greeks in the text. If you can pull up Mark chapter 7, that woman that
the Syrophoenician woman
came to Christ. Yes,
right.
She was called a Greek.
Right, she was a Greek. Right.
The text called her a Greek, but she's not a Greek though. She isn't Greek. It tells you what her nation is. She's Syrophoenician by nation, right? She would be a so-called black woman that is the text term as a Greek. right?
Right. So she really
According,
another nation. But go ahead, Shalaki.
I'm just saying is that that when you see the word Greek, people are immediately thinking of the Greek nation, the from Alexander's nation, and that's not necessarily true. How this word is being used here in Mark chapter 7. This is a Phoenician woman that is termed a Greek. So someone can be called a Greek, obviously based on their lifestyle. This woman is termed a Greek because she's actually keeping Greek customs or something to that effect, while the term labels her as a Greek. So when you read Greek in other places, people already is already thinking that this is probably coming from the Hellen uh, Alexander's nation, and that's not actually true. And that's why I was reading Acts chapter 14, verse 1, that we see as he's making a claim that non-Israelites can come into the synagogues, and the verse that he quoted clearly says when the synagogues were broken up. It does nowhere is it said that those Greeks or those God-fearers that he was the God-fearer that he's mentioning. You cannot fear someone that you don't know. He's talking about these people. These people are God-fearers, and we already said that from Acts 11, when they were dispersed abroad, were speaking to Jews only. So only the Jews will do and speak to. So if you come across people who are God-fearers, they would have to be Israelites, because they're only speaking to Israelite about their God. You can't fear someone that you don't know. They don't know them. They don't know. Paul even said this in his writing in First Thessalonians. All right, for the Gentile that know not God, that they don't know the Most High, they don't worship the Most High. The Jew wasn't speaking with them, and that's why even at a certain point we see Peter preference when he came to Cornelius. He says it's an unlawful thing for man that is a Jew to keep company of another nation. We see this stuff reflected again in the writings of Josephus. That's the custom that they don't keep company or hang around with one of another nation, which it sounds like a contradiction. That if the Messiah told Peter to go to everybody, why would you even say that to Cornelius if he told you to go to everybody? It becomes irrelevant to even say that to him, because that's irrelevant, because you are told or commanded by your Messiah to go to everybody, which when it makes then later on when you read down in Acts chapter 10, Paul is then bringing back up when the Messiah resurrected and they saw him and ate with him. He goes on to say that he commanded us. He says to go to the people. This is the witness of Peter. He's saying when Christ is about to leave, he said to go to the people, not to everybody. That's not what Peter says when the Messiah is about to leave, that he was told. These are his words.
So, so I think one of your fundamental misunderstandings is that I believe you think Jews weren't outside of Christians, but just Jews generally weren't preaching their faith to other people, and they were. A great example of this is Josephus in Antiquities of the Jews. I think it's chapter 20. He talks about Isates, who was a king of a small kingdom in the land of Assyria, which of course it wasn't Assyria at that point, but just in that land area. And uh, him and there was a Jew named Ananias and another one. He's not named, and not only is Isates the king, well, he was the son of the king at first, but then he becomes king. Not only was he converted, but a whole circle around him was converted. And so once the conversion occurs, they're all considered to be Jews. John Hyrcanus forced the conversions of the Idumeans. There are various examples of conversions. That's what proselytes are. There are these foreign people that convert. Now you have a full proselyte who is circumcised, and you have a proselyte at the gate who is somebody who would generally be following the Noahide laws, but would not be circumcised, which is the class that somebody like Cornelius falls into. And so the full proselytes are being preached to at the beginning. We see proselytes present in Acts chapter 2. It says from Rome, Jews and proselytes. And we know that in Acts 6:5, Nicholas of Antioch, he is a proselyte. So he is a foreign convert. That's what the term means. In fact, the Exegetical Dictionary of the New Testament on the term proselyte specifically says it is a person of non-Jewish parentage. So it is a foreigner that has converted. So there were people of all ethnic backgrounds being preached to already, but it was only if they were a full convert. If they weren't, then they were not being accepted into the body. That's where Cornelius came into play. Now, in Acts chapter 13, specifically where we were, the God-fears are mentioned earlier in the chapter. In fact, when we go back, and I'm trying to find the verse 26, brethren, sons of Abraham's family, and those among you who fear God. And then as we go, I don't remember what verse it is exactly, but there's another verse where the God-fears are again spoken of. And so when the meeting of the synagogue ends, these Jews and God-fearing proselytes followed Paul. It's not that he went on and did some other ministry. They'd already heard from him. So the meeting ends, and now they start following Paul and Barnabas and speaking with them. So that's what we have going on. And so I'll just leave it at that.
It's a and even with the like the Esther 8, you may be familiar with where these folks converted and became Jews. Um, like wherever you want to say that is, you have to be honest and be like, well, these folks they converting, they're doing something, where they have to worship the Most High, man. So and it's a plethora of those kind of situations. But again, I thought you was gonna deal with the with that word Greek, in its definition and that word, well, Helen, dealing with that word Helen, how it's used throughout the text. I'm curious though, are you saying that Cornelius is a heathen?
No, Cornelius is an Israelite.
Oh, okay, because you was kind of saying it like he was a heathen a little bit, but yeah, I figured you thought he was an Israelite.
I'm not.
But
I mean, again, I mean, listen, it's fine that people think that the apostles went to non-Israelites. That's not an issue. I mean, it's not. I mean, these, like I said, we talked before how these people are constantly changing the definition of the word originally, and this is all they're using today. This modern day definition of words, which the original definition has been changed. And so they're going off of that to make their argument. They're not going back to the original meaning of the word, the root of the word. They actually trying to speak against the root of the word. He says speaking against the word, which is ridiculous. Why would you, if that's what the word is originating from, and then what the word is the root? If without the root, you don't have nothing. If without the root, you nothing. You can't speak against the root of the word. That's where it starts from. That's where it's trying to convey to you. You got to start here with me. I'm telling you what this is, and anything that comes from the root is only a branch from me. It won't be something completely different from what I'm saying to you. It is what I'm saying. It comes from me. It's the same thing from me. It is not a different nation. It's the same thing because it's the root. It's just a branch off of me. So the argument is just based on these modern definitions, and again, which is not consistent with the text. Because I can pull up manuscripts in the Hebrew which does not say the certain things about Christ gave some commission to go to everybody in the world. That's why I brought up Peter's own testimony that when he's saying what Christ commanded him when he left, he said to go to the people. That's what this is the testimony of the apostle of his own mouth. He doesn't say anything. We know what we have today is copies of copies of copies, which have been mistranslated, which have been changed and corrupted. We see it in the text because they put the word in there, Easter. We know that they're translating certain things based on what they believe. No one believed that word there. We know the word don't say Easter there, but they translate it as Easter. Easter that's there. What I'm saying is that I'm using the testimony of the apostle's own mouth. He's telling us what was told to him when the Messiah went, and he said that the Messiah told him to go to the people. So I'm using
creature
to
though.
affect what I'm saying.
Did Jesus not say every creature?
You talk well if you're speaking of the end of Mark, that is disputed.
Okay. So what about all nations? Not all Israelites in scattered, but all nations themselves.
Well, the Messiah said in Matthew chapter 24, he told the apostles, it says, "You shall be hated of all nations." Is that would you take that literally, that he means that the apostles will be hated of all nations?
Yes.
Okay,
Why
so
would I
if
not take that?
why would all nations hate the apostles?
Because of the message that they were preaching. Christian, I mean, there's people of all nations that hate believers even today.
No, it don't say individual the nations. It says all nations shall hate you. Now
So
you
you're
you you
taking
you bring
so
out
you're taking it as a
individual
col-
stuff. It doesn't say that.
so you're taking all nations to be every single person in every nation. That's
That
that's
was your
that's
example right before, was it not?
How would that possibly be the case?
You brought up every creature stuff. Now, did you not say that?
Yes, that's a different
So I'm
expression,
going. So I'm going down your line of mythology about every creature. That's why I brought up all people.
but it says every nation, not every person in every nation. There would be representatives of every nation that would hate them. Absolutely true. It does not mean every single person within every single nation hates them. That would be absurd.
Okay, so if they went to these other people and the apostles told them what the Messiah said, as he says, "I am only sent to the Israelites." If he told them that, how would that carry over?
Well, first of all, he didn't say I'm only sent to the Israelites. He said I am sent but to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Now, let me ask you this. How does Jesus define lost sheep?
The Greek word there. Well, how did he define it? He defined it as the Israelites.
No, he defines lost sheep in Luke chapter 14, 3 through 7, as those who are sinners, not the righteous. So when he says, I am sent, but for the lost sheep of the house of Israel, as he says in Luke chapter 5, it is not the healthy who need a physician, but the sick. So I've been sent not for the righteous, but for the sinners. And so when we have people like Zechariah in Luke chapter 1 who is righteous, he's not sent for those people. It's his ministry calling them to repentance. So yes, for that ministry he was sent only to them. This is just like in Matthew chapter 10 verses 5 and 6 where he says, "Go not the way of the Gentiles or to the city of Samaria, but go only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." So he gives them this instruction. Then though, what happens later? Acts chapter 1 verse 8. You will be witnesses of me in Jerusalem and in Judea and Samaria and the most distant part of the earth. So before he said, don't go to the cities of Samaria. Now he says they're going to be witnesses of him in Samaria. He says, don't go the way of the Gentiles. Now he says, go the most distant parts of the earth. And so he gave instructions that were particular to the mission of his ministry in calling Israel to repentance. And once he was rejected, they went to everyone everywhere.
Um, we gonna do a 10-minute warning on this and get everybody's last statements. I wanted to say too, like again, the only issue I got with you out, well, I got a few issues, but um, even if you establish your methodology with the gentilia, with the Latin, you still say that sometimes it means outside nations, and so you don't stick with that methodology. It doesn't hold for you. And even like when he just mentioned when Dave just mentioned, you go out into, don't go to Samaria, don't go to the Gentiles, and only go to the lost sheep. Would you say those the same people? Would you apply that methodology there? I don't think you would. You would call those Gentiles there the other nations. Um, so it's methodology with me. And like I say, when you come into the text and you're saying that this is a mistranslation, man, that's a big task to tackle, to be honest. And so you just be mindful of that. Yeah, I just suggest you to be mindful of that. You can do, and eat whatever you want to eat, but if it has to come to that point, for me, that's an extreme. And you should see other translations that are kind of similar with that mistake. Like I said, this thing has been translated um thousands of years. And so now we have a video on Riddick that's kind of, and really that's not what did that for you. Really, what did that, in my opinion, me speculating, and it did me like that in my personal record, because I've taught Israel only for over 10 years. But it's the pre-notion is what we've and and you from the original school, so you are locked in that original school, original school of thought. So it's gonna be very heavy for you to shake, and I'm praying for you, brother, that we can just, man, if we can just read the text, if we can just read it and stop trying to change stuff, unless we're going to learn the languages and do the work. Unless we're going to go to school, do the work, learn the Greek, learn the Latin. Now we're out here calling ourselves scholars and saying we know Hebrew, and we're just changing the name in Bibles and putting pictures in and make it like we're not translating. It's some of our best. And I've seen some of our best people, like as far as I know, in the community, Zion, Lex, Divine Prospect, they've learned Hebrew. It's a certain brother that's taught them. He's not Hebrew. He's scholastic. And they all sound good till you hear him, till you hear their teacher, talking to them about the certain languages and how to pronounce certain things. And but they are some of those top people that within the community that deal with the language. And if I were you, I would send something their way, man. Send something to Zion Lex, send something to Divine, and see what they think also about that Riddick article, and just get that peer reviewed by some people that deal with the language. Again, I can only go by what you were showing me with the T and how I understood it from what you showed me, and I say I don't deal with that stuff. But as far as what that was telling me, it was the T need to be next to right behind the other T. And then when we look into the Strong's Lanier, we don't see the T twice, but we've seen it in the Septuagint twice, but it was separated. And even with and this is my last point, even with the Samaritans, don't go into the Gentiles, the Samaritans, and the Israel. I'm interested if that T is there, and if we gonna say them all, or the Kai and the and we could be stuck on this thing for 4-5 hours, man. But I do appreciate you coming on, and I apologize again because I thought the other brother Ruben, I thought that was you. And we had done went on about an hour, man. So again, man, you got my email, you got my number, man. Just message me, man. You want to come back on, and we'll pick up where we left off if you want to bring some other things out. And I give you the last word, and then Dave, I'll give you the last word, and then Dave, you can go after that, and then we'll close out.
I think Dave dropped off, brother.
Oh, okay. Well, go ahead. I'll give you the last word, and then I'll close out.
Yeah, I want to give all praises to the Most High about Shema Mashiach Yahushua, man. I want to thank you for bringing me on, brother, just to go ahead and express what I see in the text. Again, people don't have to agree. I think people get bent out of shape when someone don't agree with what they believe and what they see, right. And it becomes something more than it is. We just dealing with information, and we're doing our best as we can to understand it. And you're gonna express how you understand it. Others are going to express how they understand it. And I don't see the reason to get disrespectful if someone is just giving their opinion or their take on what they see that it is. This has been going on for hundreds of years. So I don't know why people are still getting bent out of shape about someone giving a different take than what they see. You know what I'm saying? Again, I'm not, it's not a problem with me if you disagree. You know what I'm saying? Can we just continue? And I think that's the reason why a lot of the so-called black people with this Bible turns into enemies and different things, because they can't take someone to disagree with them. You know what I'm saying? That's that, which Again, I mean, I think it's immature to think. I mean, it's crazy to think everyone's going to believe the way you believe. If you think everyone's going to see it the way you see it, I think you're delusional. You know, to even think that. You know what I'm saying? I understand somebody's going to see it the way I'm seeing it. I'm saying, but thank you for giving me time to express what I see in the text. Most High willing, brother, if the will is, then I can probably show you the rest that I have that I didn't get a chance to get to, and if that happens, we'll do it then. With that,
We'll
I'll
definitely do
say
that.
shalom.
Before you close though, before you finish, we got a couple brothers want your channel and your information, man, where they can get to you. They like what you bringing out.
My channel is let me it's better that I put it in the chat, because when you punch it up or you try to go to it, it's going to bring up other channels.
Type it in
So
the
give me
chat
a
before you leave. Tap it in the chat so they can before you leave. So it'll be on the live, and they can get it down
Yes,
before we close it out.
yes, sir.
Biblical shot, logic 1611. But yeah, man, it was a great build, man. You know, we was going through some things. Really, you know, I don't be getting into no Greek and doing you know what I'm saying? But I am methodical, and I can look at certain things and try to put pieces together. But you know, the more we do this thing, the deeper we get into this thing. And you know, like the brother said, man, everybody ain't gonna agree, and we have to agree to disagree on some things. Um, and like he said, there's thousands of different denominations in the churches, and pretty much with every system of belief, every belief system pretty much has different doctrines and different understandings of things. And this is an old text, and we're trying to get into the older text and in the other languages and so forth, man. And Dave made a good point too of going into the Greek, man. Like I said, it's a that Dunning-Kruger effect. The brothers was talking about that too in the last live we did. You know, the more the you know, you start learning something, and then you think you know a lot. But honestly, the more you learn, the more you realize that you don't know. And so this is just one of those processes, man. You know, you would have caught me 5 years ago, you know, I would have been, you know, nah, this is that, da 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 da. And you know, now you know that I've even, you know, have had to change certain things, man. I thought things that I thought I knew, I didn't know, things that I was taught. I realized that I don't agree with them no more, and there's still things that that I see in the text that, you know, we gonna have to navigate through, that a lot of us aren't dealing with, in my opinion. Um, and we have to understand that, man. We can't, you know, we can't get into the ad hominems. I think we had a decent, you know, besides us, you know, cutting each other off, and sometimes that's just the flesh. You know, we get a little anxious, and that flesh gets involved, and that's just gonna take, you know, control. And the more we have these conversations and go back and forth, we could you know, manage that flesh better and let brothers get their point off and build up that patience. But it's, you know, that's all in the process of having these dialogues. Glad everybody was here listening, man. Appreciate y'all, you know, throwing the comments in too. And you know, and being respectful, man. You know, this chat doesn't disrespect people. I haven't seen them going crazy and just, you know, being rude and cussing people out, man. You know, we all just trying to figure this thing out. And it's good to have these dialogues and to be able to you know, just have these dialogues without where we walking away and we can't call each other brother, or we can't say that we love each other, I love the brother, and so forth. It's just we have a different understanding on it, and sometimes it ain't nothing we can do. It ain't nothing we can do. It's a block. Sometimes, you know, scales on eyes. Sometimes, you know, our brothers is reading the Moses and they still veiled. Um, and so, you know, and you have the whole thing about Israel being blinded until the fullness of the Gentiles come in. These are just all things we have to deal with. We can't get frustrated and upset that people don't see it our way or start throwing ad hominems. And I pray that this was an example of that, man. You know, we might have got, you know, interrupted a little bit and got frustrated, but all in all, it was a decent dialogue in my opinion. Again, y'all pray this thing was edifying. Okay, yeah, we gotta wait for you. Well, he dropped a YouTube in. He right above you. The way and the truth and the life. The YouTube. He dropped his channel in at James 1:1. Let me know. Hit a 1 on it, cause you know how I cut this. You know, say them 5-6 words and I cut this thing off. But give me a 1 in the chat if you have that. If you have that link there.
Okay, brother. Yeah, I put it in. It won't let me put my email in, so I'll leave it
He
there
says we
again.
can't see
Thank
it
you, brother.
because you have to allow it to go through because it's your channel. Huh.
Yeah, you
Oh,
allow
okay.
the email.
Oh, well, there you go right there. What about that? Can y'all get that?
Yeah, that's the YouTube channel. The email is blocked by you, I think.
How
Or
the
you have to allow it.
it's some options or something that I have to do in settings. Private chat.
Yeah, I think so. Anyway, I mean, and anybody want to reach out to me, just I'm trying to leave my email. They can just come reach at me directly. Okay, you got to go to my channel, leave a comment on the video for me to get it. You know, it's like a long way to go around if you're trying to reach out to me. I was just
You
trying
can't
to
put your email in. Hold on, let me see if I can copy it.
yeah, I was trying to yeah. Can you copy it? Maybe it'll allow you to put it in.
No. Comment ban user no. Yeah. Sure.
Well, you have it right out.
I have your YouTube. I have your email.
Yeah, you won't let. Yeah, can you post it in there for the people? Because I can't. So they
Hold
got to
on.
go around this long way to my channel to get to me. They can just, if they want to reach out to me, they can just email me
I
directly.
got you. Hold on 1 second.
Again, I want to say before I get out, man, say I don't hate Gentiles. I want to be clear because when people that are like Israelite only or like that, they think that we hate these people. I don't hate non-Israelites. I want to be clear. This is not a hatred thing or I'm mad at them for any reason. I'm just conveying what I see in the text. That's all it is, right? So don't think I hate them because I don't.
Make sure that email correct.
That's correct, Doc. That's it. Again, thank you again, brother. I'm about to exit out.
No problem, man. Appreciate you coming on. Like I said, man, we'll talk and we'll get you back on here.
Yes, sir.
Y'all will.
Yes, sir.
Logic 1611. Did you get that? Oh, okay, that's what it is. Throughout a Gabar Toda. Logic 1611. Let me know that you got that email. Okay, all praises. All right, man. Pray this thing was edifying. Y'all be blessed. Shalom, Israel.